my God. This is what I love so much about this technology. It's always my kind of groove. We always kind of trip a little bit when we start walking, but then we run through the rest of the show, and it's just so much fun. So thank you so much.
It turns out that you cannot go Instagram Live on a laptop. So
well,
last minute, we were like, oh no, what do we do? You're going to have to back up, love.
Well, supposedly you can go live on the laptop. You just got to download a whole bunch of extra software to do it.
Yeah, I tried Googling it, and it was like, you can't do it unless you, like, schedule it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I tried to, too. So
I haven't even attempted because I'm just going to stick with the old phone and, like, the little jack into the two different computers and just cross my fingers and cross my toes and hope I don't knock it all down. But, oh, my gosh, first of all, thank you all for coming. Yeah, I got my popcorn ready, too. Also, Cody and I were chatting before just because he's so graciously joining me for the first time ever because Andy was here. I have like a nice, beautiful sign that I couldn't even do anything with because what are you going to do?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
I was going to write your names on it, but then I had to write it backwards, so I didn't get a chance. So maybe by the end of the show, I'll have it all done for y'all. But thank you guys. So for those of you joining, we have Brianna Booker and the Carlton F. And we were just talking basically our days, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about all the amazing things you guys are doing. But before, what are you doing? Who are y'all? Other than being this power couple, and is it okay if I call y'all a power couple, a poetry power couple?
No,
don't.
No, I keep that down every time somebody does that.
All right, well then
I'm real quick. There's no power. It's poetry. All right, it's a bunch of people standing around jerking each other off.
We pay to lose money on a community event that we were hoping would, just bring some joy to the lifeless local. I mean, they found a dead body across the street from our house, and our friend is like, you guys should go talk to the news, plug your show. And we're like, we're not going to exploit the dead person.
That's kind of weird because I just did my first open mic when I was traveling for spring break, and my piece was about, it's actually the 10-year anniversary of these women who were found in the basement of a house in Cleveland. And I was like, oh my God, am I exploiting this situation by utilizing this poetry piece? And I'm like, oh God, I hope not. So yes, I am.
Yes,
I will. All right,
you should definitely be ashamed of yourself.
I do feel ashamed of myself every day, so
you'll get over it.
I caught the comment about the dead person in the documentary. I think it's the documentary you guys mentioned, the dead person found behind the theater, maybe? Is that right?
No,
not behind the theater by any means. Or is it just the apartment?
We actually live in a slightly different town than the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We live East Stroudsburg and Stroudsburg there's a bridge.
We live about a mile and a half away from the theater.
Okay.
The documentary that Joseph Tainton made, whose name I'm butchering, who will probably wind up watching this at some point. He will log in.
Okay.
He will be very chuffed that we talked about him. He actually will be on our show in June.
Okay.
So
he's a great documentarian and writer.
And that's
Stroudsburg's critic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That show is June 12th, and that's a Monday, and that's going to be your first return. So this is the return of popcorn poetry. Can we talk about the history of that? Where did that come from? And what's all that about, y'all? Because that's what we're here to celebrate. And what is it?
So actually, my show on Saturday. Sorry, I just shoved candy in my mouth while I started talking.
Don't worry.
That's rude.
It's okay. We're gonna get to the show on Saturday too, because you're doing open mic.
But Billy Mack runs that, and Billy Mack actually was my introduction to the scene in total. So I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but my introduction to the scene wasn't through poetry. He started this mic, and it was very important to him to keep it free at the living room. And that was the name of the venue. It wasn't actually in his living room. If you knew him, you would know why that's an important distinction. I'd walk 1.5 miles every Sunday to go to this open mic with my friends and just kind of hang out and be around art that wasn't just like classic music in the school band or choir. And that was a really important thing to me as like an underprivileged kid growing up in rural Pennsylvania with nothing to do in these towns. Like, it's all bars, it's all age restricted. And we kind of sat down and we had a talk. And I talked to some people that I know, and thankfully one of my professors at my former university had a connection at the theater and at the library, and I was like, I really want to have an event where it's accessible. You know, we can have the kids who are 14, like I was, have access to it. And it just kind of was a huge blessing to have her help. But it was very important to have this free, accessible community event. Carlton came up with a name for it. So.
You know, it's really cool that you guys do that and that you were interested enough that, you know, that it meant enough for you to walk a mile to a venue to see poetry performed, which I think is awesome. And then to take that, move it into your own deal, make your own show, and bring the same thing, you know, to others maybe in a similar situation or position, rule, what have you. But the all ages thing makes it, I think, way cooler because, you know, kids don't read a whole lot anymore, and they don't, you know, all that kind of stuff, books, poetry, so forth. It's not
Neither do I.
hip thing anymore. Well, I mean.
Well, what somebody teaches high school age.
Reading's for nerds.
We don't. They don't read. And that's okay. Because I'm also, Brianna, I'm kind of guilty of that as well. I don't read as much as I say I do at all. You know? But I do like to engage in the poetry scene. So when you guys were doing that, did you see a lot of people your age, or was it kind of all around in that area, like a lot of different types of folks were there?
So honestly, we had kind of an older crowd than we expected. My high school alma mater is right down the road, and then the other way down the road was the university that I was coming from. As it turns out, college kids really also still don't care about poetry. And also, if they can't get a free ride to the bar, they don't care. Because we have concessions, but there's no alcohol allowed for, you know, the reasons of, you know, some people might come who are in high school, and that would be a liability for the theater. And they're nice enough to allow us to use that space for free. So
actually, I'd say we've had a pretty good turnout from the college.
As time went on, we did.
Our friend Rundy, who had since graduated, but was still, like, I think she had graduated like the year before. She featured back in September. That was like our back to school show. It was actually very important for us to kind of, I mean, it sounds much more marketing guy about it, but we were trying to kind of, for lack of better words, capitalize on that. And Rundy had been the lit mag editor at the campus. And I knew her from my crappy diner job. She'd been a customer for years since she was in high school. I hit her up and was like, hey, I've never heard a single poem you read. I'm willing to take a chance. You want to come do a thing? She did it. We got a pretty good college turnout, and we've actually, one of our features in July, Katie Pabone, will be, actually we know because of Rundy. Like, two people who, Rundy and her friend Rissa. Rissa reads books on Instagram, who is an absolute mensch. Of the highest order, and has a much better social media following than any of the three of us, let's be real.
Oh, yeah, if you're looking for internet clout, Rissa is
if you're looking for clout, backpack on Rissa.
Okay.
Have both, they reviewed our book for us, and, what have you. That's cool. So, like, no, the college has been in tune. I'm 41 years old. If I'm tapping into the high school, I'm a little weird about it.
I'm 40.
I think I'm good.
I just turned 40, so.
I'm 42, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. 30 scared the crap out of me. 40's fine.
I just turned 40.
I'll do 40 all over again in a heartbeat.
I'll tell you what, even though my life's going to shit, I'm still fucking happy at 40, so I'm
on that. Totally. Yeah.
I don't care what the fuck's going on. I'm still fucking happy at 40. I don't give a shit. But, yeah. Because at this age, you just don't give a shit anymore. You just really don't.
Nope.
And you're young enough to, like, still go, I still got some time. I'm not 50 yet. But, yeah, I wouldn't want to be filling in the high school crowd, even though I teach high school, so I understand why you would feel uncomfortable with that. But it kind of brings me to a good point, because there has been conversations about whether poetry is dead or not, and I don't want to go there, but do we need the youth, the teenage, the college-age students to be a part of this, or is it dead after us, or what do you think?
Matt? Cool. I don't know if it matters. I mean, the youth don't matter. It's the people who want to find it will find it. Not to Field of Dreams this too heavily, but we'll build it. If they come, they'll come. There are so many people who you find out they care.
Yes.
However, I feel like I'm a huge fan of, I made my bones in the corporate world on the idea of judging people largely by their potential and then seeing what they do when you focus on that.
Okay.
I've met younger people who I'm like, if you stop doing this, it will hurt my feelings.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, your first show that you ever did when you were actually a teenager, a young lady named Olivia Romano, who I have known forever.
Mm-hmm.
Olivia recently hit me up and asked if we were still doing all this and might want to come on board. I hope she wants to. I know because out of my very small hometown in Northeast Pennsylvania, Tunkhannock, there's a woman named Katie Wisnowski, who runs a group called the Breaking Ground Poets, who compete at Brave New Voices and all that jazz. And they've been doing that a long time. Don't ask me how long. I'm not their biographer. But at the same time, there is absolutely a market for that, but they're focusing on things like slam and performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they're reading poetry.
Okay.
Mm. May I piggyback off of that?
Yeah, please do.
Please. Yeah, please.
In my first creative writing class, he had us, write about the importance of a specific genre of writing. And I specifically wrote about insta poetry, like that Rupi Kaur, Amanda Lovelace type of style of poetry. Because a lot of people shit on it. And it is a weird thing how people shit on the things that, like, young adolescent girls are into. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we're going to shit on boy bands, we're going to shit on Taylor Swift, we're going to shit on insta poetry. And, yeah, I hope that that's not where they stop with poetry, but if that's their introduction, you shitting on it and making it seem like that's all poetry can ever be isn't a way to encourage them into reading what you think is quality art. Like, degrading what they like to say, like, my shit is better isn't helpful to anyone. If anything, you're just pushing them away from the art form. And I think that it has a time and a place, and I think that it doesn't get as much credit as it deserves. I mean, I don't really know that many other poets that are going on Jimmy Kimmel.
I think that's very fair to say. Cody, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know you tend to have a really good
No, because I think you're right, because if we shit on things, then that just distances them. And so then, they're just like, well, fuck that. I'm done. I'm out. I think we mentioned Taylor Swift earlier. Man, she writes good lyrics. She's great. I really like Taylor Swift. Was it 1989? Is that the album? Is that her album? Okay. I love that album. Love it. Front to back. Love it. But growing up, all my pretentious dickhead buddies would have shit on that kind of thing. They would have just been like,
Carlton, come on. What about you? Are you a Swiftie?
I'm not allowed to not be. I'm dating her. That's how it works.
I want to know how that goes.
I think I liked that new album more than you did.
The Midnight's album? Yeah, you did, yeah. To be fair, I haven't really listened to it all the way through totally. I'm more of a nostalgic Swiftie fan.
Well,
I like when Ryan Adams did 1989.
Well, I did too, but there's a problem with Ryan Adams, and we could probably discuss that at length. And oh well. But
is Ryan Adams canceled?
Well, I think he was a few years back, but maybe not anymore. I love his
breaking
music.
news.
He writes perfect songs. I mean, the guy is fantastic. He just might be a little bit of an asshole when it comes to relationships. But back to the whole, shitting on things. The guys that shit on things, or the people that shit on those type of things, are usually pretentious, overly pretentious. And so they're trying to feed their own ego so they don't look, less than the cool guy, I guess. So, but usually it tends to stem out of pretension rather than, truth within yourself, I guess. But I know at least that's why I would shit on stuff like that. And, growing up is I wanted to look cool, and it wasn't necessarily because I didn't like the thing. So
Well, I don't know about shitting on things, but I think you should be allowed to be pissed off when you're getting shitted on. So that's how I feel about that. But back to the popcorn poetry thing real quick, because you have quite a lot of people that you guys are actually featuring, but I want to hear kind of like the layout of that as far as that June 12th event. That's going to be 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Pocono Cinema and Cultural Center. So in that PA area. So like you guys have a lot, like this is your grand reintroduction back to this whole thing. So like, what do you guys like, what would somebody who has never been to a popcorn poetry event, they show up, what would they expect? What are they going to see? What is going on?
You ever watch a guy have a seizure?
Actually, yes.
She's the teacher, so yeah.
Oh, that's less fun.
Yeah. Seizures, yeah. Actually, I saw a dog have one too. So let's talk about dogs having seizures too. Okay, let's go there too.
So, to answer your question, I'm going to tell you what happened at the last popcorn poetry we had.
Why we're on hiatus right now.
To tell you that story, I'm going to tell you this story. So, I walk off stage. And I'm talking to our two featured performers. Post the open mic. We do an open mic typically. June we will not, but in July we will resume our normal programming. June we're throwing a party. We got all of our best friends together. Well, some of our favorite people. I mean, there are people. Look, 12 is a lot. I have a rule when I put a show together that it shouldn't be longer than a movie. No one wants to go to a 4-hour marathon. I'm sorry. No offense on the 4-hour marathons. But
one of those people is a baby.
Yeah, we booked a toddler.
No literal baby, they're 5. But
wow, is this like their first performance?
Kirby's 5.
Kirby's 5. Crouton.
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 I apologize. I just doxed a 5-year-old, y'all.
Crouton, the 5-year-old, is going to be performing at the June 12th event. Oh my gosh, super exciting. That's pretty cool.
Only matched children.
Yeah, we're very excited.
That's elderly, like in the 80s or 90s, because then you're featuring everybody there.
I think I might be the oldest person on this show.
I think the person who was the other feature we had, the poet that we had for February.
Donna's not as old as you are making her.
No.
You owe her an apology right now.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Dawn is a vampire. Dawn has looked like that as long as I have known her. Dawn Lays. Hang on, let me look at my people I need to mention checklist. Dawn Lays. Yep, there you go.
She runs her own reading series.
Dawn is an absolute gem. I have known Dawn. Dawn is one of those people who has never wavered in her niceties to me. Oh, wow. And even at times where it was probably a good idea for her to do that. I love Dawn. Dawn is an academic poet, which is a whole nother beast compared to the two of us. Mm-hmm. But Dawn has run writing workshops, and I met Dawn actually at one of the very first poetry readings I ever went to, which was, oh my goodness, I realized the other day, we're banking on almost 20 years now I've been involved in these scenes. Dawn lives in the Wilkes-Barre, Kingston type area, which means nothing to y'all. You ever see The Office? 2 times over.
Yeah, I'm learning. I'm going across.
Yep, there you go. Yeah. So, but Dawn and our friend Chris William, who runs the I'm Annoyed podcast with his wife Kara. You can't see it on my sweatshirt because
I think we saw it in your
sweatshirt.
Mm-hmm.
They're so well made. It only took 4 months for it to get here, but they sent me 2 on accident. The Chris William, who right now his open mic is actually going on, so we are not in Sunbury. And he is apparently ill right now, but has a guest host who will also be on the June 12th show, Rashid. Rashid Wesley Jr. Rashid Got Jokes. They are some of our comedian friends, as well as, and I'm not taking off the sweatshirt to show it off, our buddy Zach Hammond will be there. Wait, I have to say it properly. Mayor of Comedy, nationally touring comedian Zach Hammond. He's going to give me so much crap for that.
I gave him the password to my Paramount Plus, and his profile name is literally Mr. Mayor of Comedy.
Wow.
I really need to stop saying that in public forums.
He's going to kill us.
Yeah.
He's going to come back for Thanksgiving and go, okay, you guys are getting in the woods now.
I don't believe anyone on this show will be offended when I say that Zach is the funniest person I know. Zach and I kind of came up together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited. Zach actually guest hosted the month we released our book. So Zach's great. We never did answer your question. So popcorn poetry. I had a seizure. I've never had a seizure before.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
so
I
that was you.
know it was like that.
Oh God. Are you?
Yeah.
Well, was it a one-time
They don't
thing?
think I'll have another one, but they don't know why the first one happened.
Well, I can actually maybe tell you, because the same thing happened to my daughter when she
Oh my
was
God.
in second grade. Yeah, I get a call. It's February 2nd. I'll never forget the day, 2014. And my daughter has a seizure. Okay, never had any sort of medical issue ever. Okay, I rushed there, and we were at the hospital for 4 days. Nothing ever came from it. All the stuff. Now then all of a sudden, all these people started coming up with these stories where, yeah, so-and-so had a one-time seizure. So-and-so had a one-time seizure. And for her, I don't know, she was so overwhelmed with whatever was going on that her brain kind of just like short-circuited, I think. She just got she started like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. What's going on? And it freaked her out to the point where, boop, the brain reset itself. That's how I viewed it. At least that's how I tell myself. And thank goodness, and thank goodness for you as well that it's only been a one-time thing and it's never happened again. It's been a long time since. So same thing for you. I'm hoping. Was you overwhelmed?
June 12th will be 3 months with no seizures.
Okay.
My doctor said I'm clear, so I'm here. Show must go on.
So that was the impetus for the popcorn poetry? Was the seizure?
No, that was the impetus for the break.
Okay.
The impetus for popcorn poetry was that it's in a movie theater.
That's why
popcorn was a multifaceted thing.
Popcorn as an adjective. It was some fancy wordplay that we think a lot of people misunderstand.
Like that.
Misunderstand, and they think it's popcorn and poetry. Because I understand. I'm never offended.
That happens a lot.
But yeah.
Oh, really? I like how you guys have it as popcorn poetry. I get the vision. You seem to get the vision too, don't you?
I'm a sucker for alliteration. I love alliterations.
Yeah.
So, and I probably overuse alliteration, but I just love the way it sounds, the way it looks, and so forth. So you'll never go wrong with that with me.
So when you do the popcorn poetry, I know there's comedy and music. Is that it's going to go throughout the whole show, or is like comedy starts or poetry starts, or just how is it going to be built, or is it just kind of whatever the audience is going to see it live?
It's a big pile of chaos. Carlton often describes it as like a circus or a zoo.
Is that because you enjoy those things?
Well, he should know. From what little history I know of him so far, having met him,
What was your dad's clown name again?
Riddles.
Okay. Why did I think it was Puddles?
No, Puddles is the singing clown. No, I have a corporate background in events running. I used to run like comic book conventions and stuff.
Okay.
For a publisher and stuff like that. So, I am, not to do a little too much of this, but I am very organized in the chaos. I think Brianna's family have their own issues, but that's not my place. But like I was raised by super crazy people. Like I have a bipolar mother and a bipolar father, and like they were just so like you're raised and conditioned to kind of know how to wrangle that sort of people.
Oh yeah.
So like in a weird way, being I don't know if I would know what to do if I was around a bunch of normal people. Like I work in a restaurant now, and I work around the most normal people ever, and they all look at me and go, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take Saturday off, and I'm going to go to Hamburg, and we're going to read poems in the third floor of a weird gym. And that's like, it's all good. And I think this is kind of our world in a lot of ways. And when you're born in that chaos, you learn how to kind of wrangle the same chaos, and you're equally as good at it at this point, which is so the way you and
I was raised in a different type of chaos, but it was chaos all the same.
Yeah. Oh my God, can you imagine if we'd had normal parents? We'd work in like a bank.
Can I ask maybe a
That's like
stupid
money.
question real quick? So having watched
No.
the documentary, the Ramones jackets that you all wear, I noticed everybody's kind of got the leather jacket. Can you explain that? Because I had no clue,
Not me.
but I kept seeing this jacket on several people. I'm like, they all got these jackets. What's
You and Maddie
the
do
deal
very
with
much.
this?
Yeah. So Maddie actually, okay. So Maddie Brzezinski. Oh my God. Yeah. She's gonna give
mayor.
me shit later for the fact that I can't pronounce her last name, but it's because she's told me that the correct pronunciation is two different pronunciations, and every time I say it the way she said to say it the last time, she says it's the other way.
Mhm.
Anyway. Carlton had actually bought me that jacket earlier that day at a Gap outlet.
Okay.
It's like
And-
vegan leather or fake leather or whatever. I'm sure it's made of cancer.
And Allison Lubar, who we adore, wrote poems based on the dinosaur flyer
Yeah.
that I had made. I make all our flyers in Microsoft Word. They're not that complex, but I love doing silly stuff like that. And so we just kind of went with this dinosaur theme. And so Carlton had bought me the dinosaur t-shirt, and I was going to wear some other jacket. And then we saw the leather jacket, and my old one got ruined. And this one was pleather, and I don't eat meat, and I have some new changed ethics. And so I was like, oh my God, this leather jacket. And he was like, well, you want it? Like, it's on sale. And so we bought it, and I wore it, and I was just excited to wear my pleather jacket. And then Maddie gets there, and I'm like, oh, are we wearing the same jacket? And she was like, no, but almost. So it was just kind of a coincidence.
Oh my gosh.
Birds of a feather, you know.
Hey, I like
But-
it. I thought it was pretty cool. And then Carlton, your coat rather, the big.
The obnoxious.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Hey man, I love that. I found in a thrift store years ago a Hagrid, what I called my Hagrid coat.
Oh, that's amazing.
$2.
Yep.
But similar, not quite
Heck
as
yeah.
cool, but similar. And I saw that you got two of them. So smart man, you always need a backup, black and brown. So got to match your shoes. So
Yep.
I like it. Sorry, I mean I had to
No, I
ask a
love it.
question about
This
the
is
jackets
great.
because I was so confused, and I had to know what the deal was. So
I love that the takeaway on this is not that we pimped out your old coworker.
Oh yeah, thank you. No, Joe actually, our friend who made the documentary, who was like, "Hey, do you guys mind if I make this documentary on your event?" When he made it, he was like, "What's with you guys all saying I believe it? Like, what's the story behind the I believe in you thing to each other all the time?" And we were like, "No, we're just being nice and friendly and encouraging. Like, I don't." And we had to go rewatch it, and we were like, "Wow, we really do say that to each other a lot. People really do think we're just being bitches to each other.
Yep.
We're not."
We're negative. Yeah, no, I'm so glad these are the takeaways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad
Well,
we are choosing aesthetics that are pleasing to the eye.
it all works.
So what makes a good open, like what makes a good poetry event, like what you're going to be putting on? Are you going to have like a variety of type of acts? Like what makes a good, you obviously pick the people you wanted to showcase, because what about them? What types of artists are you guys really trying to feature at the June show? And then I definitely want to get into what you got going on this weekend too, because I know Brianna, you're being featured this weekend at your other Billy Max event, but
Yeah.
So again,
I mean,
yeah, go for it. You know what I said.
I mean, I don't know if you can really define what a good poetry event is, because like our event's literary based, but comedy is technically a spoken word art as
Absolutely.
well. And you know, I think music is poetry. I get asked that question a lot.
Same part of the brain.
Yeah. And I think every month is unique. I mean, we specifically chose to do it once a month because we didn't want to oversaturate this little market that we have here. And it also makes it a little easier on us since, you know, we pay our performers. But I mean, our first one, we didn't have open micers, so I guess having open micers show up.
Never had that problem before.
We had people show up for the audience, but nobody wanted to perform in the open mic portion. It was a very unique problem. It was like the last problem I would have ever expected for us to have.
If I were to make a list of potential problems, no one coming to get their crumbs of attention would not have been one of them. This is traditionally a very self-interested art form.
Agree, but not necessarily disagree. But I'm more of like, who's a poetry fan that does not do poetry themselves? Who's that person? But you're saying you had people that were just ready to sit, just not ready to speak. Or again, maybe I'm shocked by that. I am shocked by that.
We both work and are active in our community in a lot of ways. We are, I mean, not to, again, but I don't sprain my wrist doing this through this.
No, you got we invite you on here to do that. Like, you don't have to do it any other time, but do it now. Like, we want to hear of that because you have done this. Because we're talking to you because of the work that you all did. Like,
thank you so much.
No, seriously, like, you built something. I know, Brianna, you were quoted as saying that you're not necessarily building it for beyond your space because you just built it for your space. But I'm going to tell you, I think you guys are actually rippling out a little bit. I think you are reaching more. And again, you hit the college crowd, but again, your location is actually pretty unique because it hits a lot of really saturated areas, but it's not too far away.
I mean, we are an hour away from New York City, an hour and change from Philadelphia, an hour from deep into like New Jersey, or if we want to go to the Scranton or Wilkes-Barre area, we're like 45 minutes away. No one on this show, is anyone on this show local before I shove my foot in my mouth? Joe is local. The documentarian and our friend Strasburg's critic on Facebook. And then, is anybody else on this local? I'm trying to think. Am I forgetting anybody? I'm about to feel really bad if I'm wrong.
Maybe check the flyer?
I am now.
Yeah. I don't think so, though.
If you mentioned almost everybody, but I don't think I've heard you guys talk about Casey Romero.
Casey Romero?
Oh, they are a gem. They live in Manhattan, actually, right now.
And then you have
I have known Casey.
Okay.
Go ahead. Miriam's from Jersey.
Arthur, also, I think, from Jersey as well.
Who?
Arthur, yes.
Yes.
Arthur, I think, is our connection. Yes.
You're like, who? Who the fuck is Arthur? I don't know who the fuck Arthur is.
Arthur, Miriam, yeah.
Arthur, who, believe it or not, I have never met in person.
Are you fucking kidding me? I've never met him.
No. Arthur is one of my favorite people to talk shit with. We have grown very close over the last maybe year and a half or so. At one time, there was talk of Arthur even publishing me. I was probably not there yet. I'd only put out my one book, then I put out my first book. And I think I sent him a proof, but Arthur will be there. Arthur was supposed to be our March feature, but I had a seizure.
Damn.
It was actually April.
I believe he was going to be the April feature.
March was originally going to be Joe and Billy Mack, and then you had your seizure.
Yeah, that's what it is, yeah. And look, if you expect me to actually keep track of everything right now at this moment, although I'm going through my cheat sheet in the side window here.
Great job. I think you pretty much hit everybody else except for maybe Ryan Flattery.
Ryan Flaherty.
We adore Ryan, yes. But Ryan's house actually burned down not long after he featured in November and was in the documentary.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yes. The other local is Kyle Mocha.
Who's on my cheat sheet of people to mention. Mia, I did a great job here.
Yeah.
Remember when you said I was doing a great job? Ryan is a fantastic comic. His fiance, Yasmin Wahid, is an amazing visual artist who has actually drawn us a logo for the event.
Can we see it? Are we gonna get some?
I wasn't gonna put it out there, but screw it. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it. I'll pop it up for you. This is gonna take me a moment, so I may need to. Yep, here we go.
We can keep chatting because I'm super excited about again the whole.
That's it backwards.
Pretty cool.
That's what I hate. I fucking hate that we can't read it right. That really is such a pet peeve of mine.
We'll send it to you.
Okay.
We'll send it to you if you want to put it on whatever post you make or whatever.
If you don't mind. That's awesome, and we'll show you stuff for sure.
Yeah,
Again,
yes.
it's a good place to be for your event here. Because again, like you said, it's very local for a lot of hours away. So you're also talking about the people that we're seeing that we still love. Ryan, I think we're still talking about.
Rye Flaherty, he and his fiance's home burned down last year, and or earlier in the year, I guess.
Very early after the new year.
And it was really cool to watch the community come together and take up benefits and collections and what have you. It was so nice to see that. I mean, sometimes community is just a word we use to sound like we give a crap, and this was not one of those cases. I don't think. That said, I have Ryan. Yes, I love working with Rye because he's like one of those people who it's not bullshit when he's positive. It's legit. There's some people you talk to and it's like real toxic. You're like, shut up. Like, dude, I've seen you when you're not like this. This is not one of those people. So I love being around Rye. He's actually got a relatively infectious positivity about him. And then our friend Kyle Mocha, who is absolutely a person worth talking about, by the way. I feel like that's worth mentioning. Kyle runs, I don't know if it's inappropriate to say this, but it's absolutely not completely accurate. Right now, Kyle's actually doing the Bring Your Own Vinyl night at the bar, literally 2 blocks from our house. Kyle runs actually, we will be at a mic tomorrow night at Yard of Ale here in town. That he and our buddy Steve-O run.
A different bar than he is at right now.
Yeah, because it's a college town, there's a row of bars on the main drag. And I'm pretty sure Kyle has an event in every single one of them right now.
Yeah.
There was a brief period where we ran what I can only describe as the little comedy open mic that could with Kyle.
The little comedy mic that could. I wish that still existed. That just is such a great name.
It wasn't the name of the event, but that's what I call it.
But I'm saying,
I think Kyle would agree. And so they'll be doing that tomorrow night. Kyle's very funny, big Irish Catholic family. I don't know if they're Irish, but they're Catholic. They're very religious. I don't even know if they're Catholic now that I said that. Jesus people.
They're just very evangelical.
Yeah, they're very, very, I don't think Kyle would disagree with this, very religious, and Kyle is apparently graduated. To believe in something probably, maybe not a God.
It happens.
I think he believes, but that's Kyle Mocha. He is our other local. Him and Joe are definitely our 2 locals.
Okay.
I went all the way around for that. It was like an old family circus comic strip. There you go.
Kyle actually has a short film that you can watch online.
Oh my God, yeah.
Called The Basement Bar. That was actually screened at the Pocono Cinema. So there are all of these little connections personally, because Billy Mack told us when he was originally going to feature in March that he also used to work at the cinema back when he still lived here, because this is also his hometown, not just mine. So we kind of have that little weird connection that people have of like, we eclipsed each other for so long and then our paths kind of finally crossed.
Actually, apparently Chris William, one of our comedians, will be on this. The I'm Annoyed podcast gentleman, has performed in Kyle's basement.
Oh.
Yeah, then I had my feature. Chris was actually our feature. Him and Dawn Lace, who we mentioned earlier, were our features, and they actually never got to go on. So we will definitely book Dawn again. She's in Colorado right now with her boyfriend's sick father or something. I don't know. The point here is that it's important to make personal connections with these people, I find.
Yeah.
I think I talk a lot about how there's no poetry and comedy and juggler and all this stuff bowling night, and I think it's important to some of us go to the show, we go home, people don't know anything about us, and we've made it a goal to make sure community is not some word we use. It's something we actually exhibit. It's why you won't hear us talk about it at times.
Yeah, because
it's do it, don't say it.
Right. You're not trying to just put out an advertisement, even though I'm trying to blast it because I want that ripple effect, because I want to have more people, because I want to expand my own personal self. Like, I'm looking into going into, because I believe Cody and I have had this conversation, and you may have had this conversation too before, is that because this is such a niche area, it becomes almost incestuous in the small locale. So like Nashville has a whole scene, but the Nashville people are not going to Cleveland. as far as spoken word, as far as my experience, your area, they're not going out to Chicago. I mean, some people will, but not everybody. So is that because we're too niche, we're too circle our wagons, we're too afraid to expand, or because people are inauthentic? I mean, we're afraid of strangers. I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know. It might not mean anything.
Well, I mean, I don't want to tell you, screw you, you're wrong, but
you can.
I am a huge fan of I don't think you are. I think in many places you are.
Okay.
I think, however, my attitude, again, instead of saying it, doing it, has always been to almost force poetry into people.
Okay.
We run an event where every month we made sure to book a poet, but other months we just went, all right, so you're going to come to see the comic, but I'm going to make you sit through a 10-minute set of a poet and an open mic, where our open mic is comedy and music heavy, but there's always somebody who's like, I'm going to read a poem. We had a comedian read a poem, John Greer.
He also runs an event and is super supportive.
Runs every other event that Kyle doesn't run.
Yeah.
Greer Fest. It's okay. I just sent you the short film that Kyle made, actually, so you guys can watch that whenever.
Oh, awesome!
Thank you.
But go ahead.
One of the things Kyle says, because Kyle being a comedian, they're kind of the people that really have to put the work in. Poetry is a little different because we don't work.
We have it easy. I have to make you feel anything at all. They have to make you laugh.
Kyle loves to say, like, he's too lazy. He doesn't have it in him to, like, go even to Jersey and, like, perform at a mic and get offered a show. And one of the things that Carlton likes to say is, it used to be you were competing with the other show a town over, and now we're competing with Netflix and Mr. Mayor of Comedy, watching Rocco's Modern Life on Paramount Plus. Because now you've got to put on pants and you've got to drive 45 minutes and beds are just really comfy, cozy. And why, it'll be there next month.
The marketplace of entertainment changed. My first, when I first moved here, one of my first featured sets, I went up against one of the Avengers movies as the alternative to something to do that.
Okay.
And I mean, that's competition. I'll tell you what, I can either go to an open mic that happens every single week, or this is the week Avengers happened.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I can go to the free open mic that I can go to anytime. I mean, any performer. I can't tell you how many comics I know, or poets, or musicians who have friends they've known their entire lives, who for the last 5 years have been like, man, I really got to get out to one of your shows.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, I get it. I really do. Because life gets in the way.
It does.
I can't. I mean, once a month somebody messages me and goes, "Hey, you got to come to my show," and I'm like, "Hey, I don't mean to be an asshole, but I don't want to. Like, I don't, and I'm not trying to be rude, but like, I got my own things, and you can come to mine, and I'll put you on it. You know, I live in the mountains for a reason. You know, like."
The other thing about it is, as much as like we force the poetry on people, like you're gonna come out to the comedian, like you're gonna sit through this poet as well. Carlton sometimes does say that he wishes we'd named the event something else because it is hard for people to tell what it is. We have had to go out and tell people, like, no, you can do your music here, you can tell your jokes here, you can do comedy, you can do whatever. We had a magician once.
Yeah, Scott did he did a close-up magic, which was really great on a stage in a theater.
Surprisingly,
I can see that.
But it, you know,
absolutely.
Because poetry is in the name, people think, oh, like I can't go to that, but no, you absolutely can. And you know that's in the event description and everything, but
that's only on Facebook.
I wouldn't read that if I was anybody else either.
When we put a flyer all around town. We've made it a personal goal from here on to make sure. I mean, you'll see the new flyer that you have up. It says comedy, poetry, music. For a reason. Free.
Free on it.
Yeah, because he keeps getting asked if there's a cover, And I don't really look. We lose money every month, but it's not like we don't work hard for it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not swimming in it by any means. If you saw how we had to fandangle our apartment to be able to do this, you'd be impressed. It's very small.
I'd be spending my money on much dumber things than supporting my local artist with a box of trinkets from the local businesses that I frequent anyway.
Yeah, we do not pay them in cash. It is important that I say that.
Okay.
Because the cash we would give them would be insulting. Thank you for driving 3 hours. I mean, I think Rashid's coming from Williamsport to do the thing.
He is, yeah. It's like 3 hours away.
Yeah, it's very far. And every now and again, distance to our show, which we live in the mountains. Like, we are an isolated area. We live in the Poconos, though, so it's a tourism destination.
Yeah.
My big pitch when I know people are coming from far away is like, look, I mean, if you really want to impress your girlfriend, people come to the Poconos to go on a vacation all the time. Just drag it out till Monday.
It is a destination where people come to like go to like the ski slope, to the water park, just to propose.
It's like living on the Jersey Shore or something like that. Like, it's the same silly thing. People rent a cabin or a Airbnb or what have you.
Yeah.
We have, water parks and all this silly indoor water parks, and there's a casino within an hour in 2 directions, and yada yada yada. And I mean, you can do heroin or whatever you want to do. I mean, please don't do narcotics, but it's an option. I mean, you can do it anywhere, but
it sounds like there's so many things to do, not just check that out, but there's also, you can extend for the whole weekend, like you said. Bring your loved ones. I mean, schools will be out, so yeah, just come out, camp, and then stay through Monday, stay for the rest of the week, and then there's going to be a bunch of shows in the area, too, it sounds like, because you guys keep having these little local things keep happening. Brianna, you have something you wanted to add or say? It looks like I cut you off.
Oh, no. No matter how you pay, like, your performers, like, you should, thank you goes a long way, but, we write thank you cards in all the gift baskets as well.
Years and years ago, I accidentally wound up taking a job emceeing a burlesque show. Somebody had dropped out, and
I like the accidentally.
Well,
I like that.
It was kind of an act. I fell into the gig, as you do with most gigs. I find when you are for lack of a better, I work through an agency, and it's kind of funny because I'm listed as a variety performer, not a comedian, not a poet, not a juggler, because I also juggle, and they don't really know. I don't, unfortunately, much like my favorite definition of poetry is anything that you can't call something else, it's just poetry. It's important to me to point out that, like, because of that, you get to do weird shit. And it's kind of our duty as artists to be of service. So I got to do, a comedian, I guess, dropped out of a burlesque show. A friend of a friend knew about it. I went and did the gig. But at the end of the show, where I went over very well, I was very glad. I like emceeing. It's a fun job. So I go and I do this emceeing gig, and I do my set up front, and then introduce, like, cool, like, twirly people and, like, people with nipple tassels and stuff. And it was so cool. It was so hip. And it was in a ballroom of a crappy hotel, like they do those things. But at the end of it, the woman who had organized it thanked me and handed me what, I'll be very blunt with you, as a poet who every now and again gets handled a couple of bucks, I thought was a lot of money. And I looked at her and I said, thank you, but this is a lot. And she said, and she takes my hands, and she just goes, you are an artist, and you deserve to be paid for your art. And as awkward as that moment was, she was right. It's very important to me that even if it's just like, here's a free pizza, it's so important to me that we pay the people who are willing to come and share their craft with us.
They're doing us a favor. Like, I know that there is this culture that is being cultivated around us right now, and on a larger scale as well, of like, I offered you a show, I'm giving you exposure, like, you're getting paid enough exposure, bow down to me. And it's like, no, like, if you think that this person is actually talented, then they're doing you a favor by accepting that invitation, because there's no other reason to get mad if somebody says no to your show then. And we all know that they're upset sometimes when people tell them, like, oh, I can't do that show. People take it as a personal slight all the time if you say, oh, I can't get out of work that day or something.
Interesting.
It's
the unpaid internship, right? Like,
exposure. exposure.
Yeah. Here,
That's very interesting. Yeah, Cody, you have a thought on that?
Well, first, I think it's super cool that you pay them. But the way you pay them, I think is even cooler. That's got more of a personal touch than here's $30. And like yourselves, I had to do a whole bunch of rearranging and moving stuff so you didn't see all the mess and grossness in my house. But the nice thing is that you guys, you're not, swimming in money or what have you, but you still make the effort to say, hey, we respect you as artists. We respect you as performers. Here's a little something. Thank you for doing our show. And I think that's just a super cool thing. So.
And I do kind of try to personalize the things that I buy too. Like when I go to like the little local soap store, like I try to get like scents that it seems like will fit their personality. I don't just buy everyone the same soap because that would feel kind of insulting, I think.
So personalized little things. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a little cafe nearby that sells homemade potato chips. And every month there is an awkward, what flavor of homemade potato chips do we get for these people? Just understand that if I ever gave you the barbecue flavor, it's because I thought you were trashy.
Ooh, that is some
which is not necessarily a bad thing, by the way.
No, I'm absolute trash. I totally understand.
But that's not a criticism on our part.
It was for the one guy I did it too. It was a passive aggressive move, but whatever. I didn't book him. He did.
You're not gonna say and meant it positively the way you said. I was gonna say if I ever performed,
I did not mean it positively, and I'm starting shit right now.
If you give me barbecue, got it.
I'm not gonna pretend. No, I don't do that. Nope. If you want me to be fake right now, I could turn. Hang on, I'll do my customer service voice. Hi, I'm Carlton. I'll be taking care of you tonight.
It's the same way I pick up the phone at work is the same way I would talk to my grandmother. Good afternoon, Marianne. So-and-so's biology class. How may I help you? Like that whole thing. So I want real. And I think I want to bring back something that you said earlier, Carlton, is that you said, don't say it, do it. And I think that's what you're really explaining to us right now. That's how you really do. And I'm going to use that word, showcase that community. And that's because of the way you're doing it, not just because community, because that's what your community is built on, that authenticity of we're here to showcase our art. It's valuable, but this is how we're valuing you. Is that fair to say?
Sounds good. Yep, sure.
Cody, you think that's okay?
It's important to me that I grew up in a small town where there wasn't a lot to do. And then when I was like a teenager, I moved to Manhattan.
Okay.
So I love talking to I'm about to sound real 40 right now. I love talking to like the hot topic punk rock kids and being like, look, I've used the bathroom in CBGB's. You need to get the hell away from me right now. But I also sound like an asshole. So but it is. There's
too.
It's fucking disgusting. But it's also one of those things where it's like, so I got to leave and see culture. And as the world gets larger and smaller at the same time with like stuff like social media and all that jazz, God, I sound so elder millennial right now. But
it's okay. In a discussion post in class this morning, a woman was describing her writing style as for the other elder emos.
He needs to stop.
Wow. That's quite a...
She's very special and unique. I want you to know that. She is very unique and should really keep shoving herself in a little tiny box so she can keep feeling special and unique.
Mm-hmm.
God, I hate people.
But if I can piggyback off the small town culturalist type of thing, I live in what I call hillbilly hell, real small town, 14,000 people. Walmart's, the cultural center and so forth. The other day there was a baby shit brown truck parked on the corner with a Confederate flag flying off the back. I've got a picture if anybody ever wants to see it. But anyway,
that's perfect.
Being stranded in kind of a wasteland. The fact that you took off. I mean, it takes guts to do that first and foremost. But when you lack that culture, it's hard to find too. Those, like you said, those people that are going to find it are going to find it. But it's still darn tough, to find it when you're stuck in one of those places. So how did you find it? Like, how did you guys, both being kind of smaller town people, like how did you find those? Like, what was your entry point? Like
So I don't know what yours was, actually. You've never told me the story, but so that'll be my first time hearing it from him as well. But for me, it was my best friend Nadine, who her birthday's on Sunday, actually, the day after Saturday.
That's how Sunday works, yes.
Yes. Well, I have the show on Saturday, and I have a poem that I wrote as like an ode to her that I will be reading that day. Because I like to, if I ever do a show around her birthday, to do that for her. It just feels nice. But she was like, oh yeah, like me and my friends, like we go to this open mic every Sunday night. And I didn't know what an open mic night was. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what is that? Now, at this time, I'm a French horn player in my school band, and she's a flutist in her school, but we went to separate schools. But her grandmother would watch her after school sometimes across the street from my apartment, and she lived a town over, because I grew up in East Stroudsburg, and then she grew up in Stroudsburg, and she was like, yeah, like, you should, come out. And so I finally, like, convinced my mom to let me go, and I'm 14 years old, and I walk over to this thing, and I am, like, completely, like, mesmerized. There's, this specific venue at the time is called the Living Room, and there are, like, couches and recliners all over the room, and there's, like, a stage at the front. But it was literally, like, you were sitting in somebody's living room watching them, like, on stage, like, almost like a basement punk show. It was so interesting.
Wow.
And that's not what the venue is like anymore, unfortunately. Okay. I think it is kind of actually a disappointment that a venue like that doesn't exist in the area anymore. I think they really did themselves a disservice by remodeling and renaming themselves. But they still do a lot of good for the community, so by no means am I, like, saying, like, oh, fuck the Sherman Showcase. Right. And Billy Mack ran that originally. He fought really hard to keep it free because they really wanted to charge for it. And he was like, no. It needs to be free. They did take donations to pay their featured performers and to, like, provide small snacks and things like that. And sorry, reading this note. No. But, that was kind of my introduction to it, and I had taught myself how to play guitar. So I would go up there and I would play guitar and I would sing and I would cover songs. And I met a lot of really great people there, some of who are no longer with us, which is very sad. But their services were held in the venue where, there was this huge community around them. And I think things like that are kind of special.
That means a lot. That means a lot.
In certain circumstances, I think it can be hard in, like, an open environment like that where, like, you're trying to invite people in and welcome them into this community, and they walk in and they're like, oh, there's a funeral going on. Okay, I'm go.
Good point.
But,
I wasn't thinking
I lost my best friend.
I was thinking about
when I was 6. Yeah. I lost my best friend when I was 16, exactly 2 months after my 16th birthday.
Wow.
And they held his services there. His parents flew out from all the way in California to come because the rest of his friends and all the rest of their family were still out here. So they were like, there's really no point to, doing anything all the way out here. And that there are photos of that up all over the internet that I sometimes scour for. But that mic has since ended, and it was kind of the ending of that mic, which I ended up taking over. It was years and years later. I'm 18 years old, I take it over, and then the venue decides they're kind of done with it. Like, they're like, no, it's not making us any money, you guys aren't doing the job, like, kaput.
To be fair, it's the smaller room of a very large, like, every area has, like, a community theater type, where, like, Seinfeld comes every year or something, We don't get anything that big, but, like, that's, And it is their smaller space that I'm pretty sure, like, they make some money, but, like, that's not the goal of it. That's their community outreach venue. You know, you and your punk band that you started in your garage can play there. And you get all your friends to come, and you probably get, like, 40% of the door or something.
Okay.
You know?
But we were kind of like, oh, there's now, like, this piece missing from the community. Like, we should, you know, find a way to have that type of event still going on in the community.
I remember all of us meeting up at the local silly chain restaurant and, like, trying to go, can we save the mic? And it was not going to. It was not savable, unfortunately. No.
But you guys have offered a replacement.
I'm sorry?
You guys have become that portal that was there for you. You guys have become that for somebody else.
I think that was the goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
we've got a much older
crowd. What little I've seen, I think that's what you're doing. I mean.
I mean, I think in some ways we were that portal for some people. I mean, our friend who is a local model is the best way I know how to put it. Maddie Gavin. Probably would have never thought that there was, like, a place that she could go and read her poetry and things like that. And now she does know, and she does do that. And she's, you know, said it's some of the best times that she's had in this community where she's attending college.
Hey,
I know if
I
had
would
grown
have
up
killed
here
for something like that at 16, 17. Would have loved it.
Oh, that's funny. John_NY9374 is like talking about how much New York has changed. Dude, you are right. It is so weird. It feels. I told a friend the other day that it feels like pre-Giuliani New York, but it's also not. Only the bad parts. A friend of mine today said we are living in our lives by the worst parts of the 20th century, and holy cow, does that feel accurate?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree. Unfortunately, I couldn't agree more.
That friend is very quotable. Screw it. He made our documentary. It was Joe.
That was awesome. They actually typed in the question. I clicked on it. It was perfect. I didn't even know that was going to pop up there like that. It was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the screen. That's so neat. I've never done this. I'm very much a Luddite.
They're very natural, both of you. Like, this has been incredible. Like, I hope you guys.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed every second of it, seriously, and I'm really looking forward to, like, hearing more from you guys for sure. I mean, it sounds like I'm about to close. I'm not going to close it out because I want to hear more, because we are not getting away from Carlton's story. Yeah, we are going to hear about how, because I know he went to get coffee just so he could not tell the story.
Good. Bruin, I'm probably going to ask you to hand it to me because you are physically closer to it.
Yeah, that's fine. I want to hear the story because it's the first time I'm hearing it too.
How I got into poetry and stuff? Okay, well, God, I wish I could tell a short version of any story ever.
Same.
I mean, I have an English degree, so I had to take poetry classes. They were awful. I hated them. I hated the academic pieces of poetry. If I have to hear one more Robert Frost poem, I might decide to shave my head with a cheese grater and eat tinfoil instead. Nothing against that. I mean, that's got a place. Like, I have friends who are academics, and it's a different thing.
It is.
But it's we all choose different drugs, I guess. I very much leaned into performance. I come from a family of out there people. My dad was a clown all over New Jersey growing up. Like, that was his side hustle. He managed a train station for New York New Jersey Transit, but then he on the weekends he opened. I don't know if you guys had this you're from Tennessee?
I'm from Ohio. He's from Missouri.
Okay, I apologize. So I don't know if you guys had it in Ohio, but I feel like things go across the country in waves. Cody disappeared.
I know. I don't know what happened.
I'm sure
don't worry, Cody.
We'll find out. It's okay.
Maybe his phone died.
Okay.
Yeah, that could have happened.
My dad did like the openings of like yogurt, remember the yogurt places where you get the toppings? My dad had a deal with the people who opened those, and he would he would make balloon animals and all this stuff. My dad taught me to juggle, and that was a way to get people to like me.
That's cool.
I think I grew up a fat kid, so I think a lot of things all boil down to this will make people like me. I've always been funny. I'm funny. I'm not comedian funny. I am lazy. Hey, he's back.
Yeah, we got
I was still listening. I don't know what exactly happened. Like yourself, I'm a Luddite somewhat, so I get it.
Yeah, I get it. I just hand stuff to her and go make it work.
Yep.
John, is here. Josh will be on our show on June 12th. Hi, Josh. J-Dow Writes, 30 West Publishing.
Who I keep mentioning in my college course because we're talking about independent publishers right now, and I'm like, I hope that somebody goes and buys his books.
Josh, we're telling everybody how I got into poetry to get laid.
Isn't that what we all do? Right?
Bearing the lead, y'all. So I after I left the city, I wound up trying to take care of my mother, who was very sick, and I wound up living in the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton area for years. They had a small community up there. I learned to cut my teeth. I find these poetry cultures kind of go in waves of, like, there's a lot of drama, and I think it's because we're passionate people. And because I used to say, and I still kind of say it on my bitter days, that poetry is like the wasteland for artists who don't have another talent. Probably the most critical thing I could say. But it's kind of true sometimes. I watch these people and I'm like, well, I don't have any rhythm, so I can't play guitar. And comedy's a lot of failure. There's a lot of failure
you have
to get a
stand
joke
on a stage,
working.
like, naked, and you really have to grind it out in order to be a comedian. I used to go and watch a lot of comedians. I had a coworker who left to be a comedian. Comedy, like I felt like comedy and poetry almost need each other, but also that music piece too, which you guys already figured that out in your area, and that's why you're able to get such a harmonious interaction between the three. But yeah, comedy's hard for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's timing, it's writing, it's what fits the genre in the moment, and one thing you say here might not work there, and you really have to grind that out. I agree. For poetry,
I'm
you
funny
just
at
do it.
Denny's. Like I'm funny at Denny's after the show. I'm not necessarily that funny. Like, I've done comedy shows, but like I got maybe a solid 10 minutes at best, and I've been doing this a long time.
That's pretty good.
I quick on the cuff. Again, I'm funny at Denny's. You know,
funny at Denny's.
So that wasn't really going to be my path as a creative, because I knew I would be, you know, at my best, I'm probably a 6, you know. We have left bad comedy open mics, and I go, I shouldn't have been the funny guy there, right? Which is really not fair to those guys, but it's true sometimes. And that's because they're open mic nights, though. Like, that's what happens. Right, and it's your shit out and figure out who the fuck you are. Absolutely.
And people enjoy that. Because people like a train wreck, and people like an underdog story that, oh my God, they were really fucking funny. So,
yeah, but I was never going to be like an underdog story. I was just going to be a guy, you know. You never want to be the comedy version.
That's the other thing about our event is you can't accidentally wind up at it. The movie theater is closed on the night our event is. So, like, you can't, like, go out and have, like, your girls' night out at the bar and then go, oh, shit, my dad's friends are telling jokes behind a microphone right now. What's happening?
I am, however, a really big fan of, if I was like 23 and and wanted to impress a girl that I knew something cool, that's where I'd be taking them. Like, it would be. I'm basically married now, but like back when I wasn't, you know, this would have been a trick I used. So then I
so wait, hold on.
while I was in,
if you're out there and you're single, get your person, and on June 12th, you got a whole situation there. You know, bring them to see it.
Yeah, but don't like go there and then slide into everybody's DMs and go, oh man, I saw you down. And yeah, don't do that, because I get shown those, and we're in the group chat roasting you.
I feel like if you had something to do to come see you guys, I'm not into like the fake community, but I really think there needs to be some sort of interaction because we're too stagnant, too separated. That's just
like please don't come to our event to pick up chicks. But the flipping, I started going to. Yeah, I'm really funny at Denny's, but I'm not, and I don't have any musical talent.
I'm saying I was trying to be funny at Denny's.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah, thank you. You know what? Go there to pick up chicks. I gotta warn you, they're all carrying pepper spray and we'll use it.
Bring your chick there, not find a chick there.
It's your first date. It's probably a great first date. Probably a great third date. Yes.
Third date.
Yeah, this is our weird little speakeasy in the local movie theater.
All I was trying to do, man, try to get those third daters to come see you guys and be really impressed. And they go, oh man, something to talk about. That person was amazing. Oh my gosh, did you hear that comedian? Yeah, that's a great thing to do.
You're so sweet. So I wasn't gonna fit in the comedy world. I don't know, and actually, I get along with the comics probably better than anybody. They're my actual friends. I believe it was Zach Hammond, mayor of comedy, who told us, "You think fucked up shit is funny? That's why we're friends." But it's and the poetry people can be a little sensitive. I think that's part of the nature of that world. And I am unfortunately an incredibly subversive person when I decide to start screwing with somebody, and I have some loud ethics that get me in a lot of trouble sometimes. Like, here's the story. We were outside of a venue once, and one of the guys who worked at the venue told us a horrible story about how he gave cocaine to a 16-year-old and basically sexually assaulted her. So I stood at the front of the room and said, shout out to the guy running the coffee bar. He probably molests children, and it was a whole problem. But
I mean,
that's the kind of crap I do.
But that's kind of like
thank you so much for understanding that part.
Yeah, you don't do that. I like that you say that.
And I'm
again,
not gonna like
people do that because we don't make that uncomfortable. We need to make that kind of shit uncomfortable because that's fucking wrong. Sorry.
I mean, people like to call me out for causing a problem there, but whatever. Anyway, the point being, so I started going to a place that no longer exists because art spaces get a couple of years, I find, especially when there's like government grants involved and stuff. And what happens is you start seeing the same 10 people over and over again.
Right.
They always say a good writers group will throw you out of the writers group after a year because you start writing to the writers group. So, I mean, what did you guys say? Things were really incestuous?
Yeah, it'd be like an MFA program, right? Where the MFA kids start writing like their professor to make the professor happy and yada, 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 that kind of shit.
Absolutely.
Like, take on the
and it's rough.
Teacher.
Like, we all know little groups of poets who all sound the same. And one of the cooler things about these communities is that when you find the pocket community, you start to realize there's a sound of that. Pocket community. And like I mean, actually, interestingly enough, there is an MFA program about an hour from here where I know 100% after hearing 2 of your poems where you got your degree from.
Right. Yeah.
And so I started going to the space, and it was right in a weird communal shift in that area's poetry world. There was a lot of infighting that I didn't understand because I was new, and I was like, I'm going to come here. And I went there with a friend of mine at the time and my roommate at the time. And we were like, let's go make fun of the arts people on a Thursday for free. And I did some shtick, which is the best thing I can describe it as. I, to this day, do not know if these people know that I was making fun of them. And I wrote little bits, the type of stuff that if you follow me on Instagram at the Carlton F, are like on little index. I wrote them on little index. They would have been coffee photos nowadays. Every other photo I post is coffee through a filter. Yeah, I'm sure everybody has. It's kind of hard to avoid them. So, that makes one of us. So they, that was like what I wrote on little index cards. My roommate at the time was playing harmonica behind me. We had made the deal. She wasn't going to speak. She was only going to play the harmonica. And every time I read one of these little TV bits, one of which literally just said, like, talk like Mushmouth. And I would go, have a frabba, have a frabba, 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 frabba. One of them, I remember distinctly, it started out with, like, Domino's closes at 3 a.m. I want my pizza. There's a dead bird on the side of the road. And that was the gist. And each time I would throw the index cards like I was David Letterman. The original plan was, at the end of it, we'll yell, "You're all sheep," because we were so edgy. I'm trying my darndest to kind of signal to my roommate at the time, don't do that thing. We can milk this. They love us and they think we're geniuses. So the next time we went back, I had bongo drums and did a whole bit about how my roommate at the time used to get hit on at the gas station she worked at. And it was called Stop Hitting on Her, Man. And we milked that for a little bit. And then I had some things to say. I think it's funny because this happens a lot. I've been to a lot of readings or shows or events or open mics where you realize somebody's trying to fuck with them and they didn't know. And it is my job, I believe, to be of service as an artist and to kind of go, hey, you got an idea there. Let's see what we can do when we focus it. Instead of going, oh, you really showed us, fuck you, get out. It is so much more important to go, hey, there's a whole culture here. Let me show you. Because sometimes you can bring those people in.
Sometimes they want to be in, and they just
absolutely,
act like
absolutely
they don't because they want to feel like I'm going to reject them instead of actually trying. So I hear you, and they are receptive to that. I like that a lot. I tend to be like that.
So I did that
at work.
So I went to that venue for almost a full year, and then I started bringing friends. And this was my first introduction to toxicity in community. My first real, because I guess when I came in, I was very idealized. And I go in there, I have a girlfriend at the time. I had started dating a girl from outside of that. And because I don't really date in these scenes, I more date somebody than shove them into the scene. Brianna and I have been together for almost 4 years, and look at you. The girlfriend I had at the time and I start going, we bring her sister. We're almost infecting this space, and they're getting mad. Because this is them hanging out with their friends. So the guy meets me at the door, hands crossed. I'll never forget this guy.
Wow.
And his entire body language, like he's a bouncer. And you got to understand, this is like a 40-year-old dude with a pot belly, wearing cargo shorts. And it's not scary. And I'm excited because I bought a new shirt and I'm going to read my open mic poem. And homie looks at me and he's like, "You're not welcome here anymore."
Wow.
And I go, oh, okay. Do you mind if I ask why? And he just goes, "My house, my rules." And I'm just kind of rolling my eyes and go, "All right." And I walked home. So then the venue closed the next month. So I win. But I will still never forget that
you weren't there anymore.
Yeah, I win. That's all I care about. I find in life sometimes you need to trust your instincts, and when you think people are not great people, you just need to let them not be great people. It feels so much better when they hang themselves. So I then, in retaliation, started my own mic in the downtown of that town. Got 70 people to come out to a poetry reading.
All right.
I went through a bad breakup with that girlfriend. Moved to the Poconos, which is where we live now, and I ran the mic that she ran very briefly, and then
I didn't run it for very long either.
No, well, yeah. Well, you probably threw somebody out and then it closed down. So. Actually, I've never had to throw anybody out of anything, and I find it so interesting that I hear all these stories of people not being allowed places or someone having to throw someone out.
Right.
And it's so important to us to not have to do that. You know? The room will take care of itself, I find.
No, it will. Yeah,
that's
right.
the hope.
And I think that's because of the way you built that. So, because you brought people in that were good people the whole time, and they will know as soon as somebody comes in, the energy is going to be off, and they'll take care of it, like you said. I think Cody, you agreed with that as well.
Hey, quick question.
That's important to me.
So with the open mic, since you guys have, what you have set up and so forth, what would the etiquette be? I mean, like, we're talking about, jackasses and so forth. There's obviously got to be some kind of etiquette. I've not really been to open mics again, living in hillbilly hell, but there's got to be some sort of etiquette, I'm assuming. So, what do you want to see people how do you want them to act? Rather, because, again, you get the assholes that, want to show off, I guess, or what have you, look cool again. So.
If you go back far enough to, like, the first event page on Facebook, on my Facebook page and stuff, there is a video where we talk about how, like, it's all ages, but it's uncensored, and, we do have a local family that we play Pokemon Go with, who come, and they have some younger kids. But, they're there, and I know some of their parenting style, and I know that the people who would bring their kids out to something like this, their younger kids, have the ability to talk to them about anything that is maybe a little out there. Some people would be like, absolutely not, I don't want my kid exposed to that.
Right.
So, I mean, don't do it while somebody's up there performing, obviously. I mean, I think the etiquette's kind of built in a little bit because we're in a movie theater. Like, I've definitely noticed, like, people are less likely to talk through people because, there's just that atmosphere of, like, being in a movie theater seat, and there's a screen and a stage in front of you, and it's Like, you're like, oh, I'm going to get yelled at by the usher.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, there have been a few times where, I'm up front and I'm, trying to run the show, and I want to turn to the person behind me and go, if I can hear you, you need to shut up.
Yeah.
Or go to the back of the room.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our venue fits 125 people, so it's never going to look as full as it is, but if I can hear you in that large of a space, you need to, like, there's a lobby.
Right.
If you need to have a conversation, that's fine. Nobody's going to be offended if you get up quietly and leave to go have the conversation. I mean, just be as respectful to people's time as you want them to be to yours. I mean, and not just at the mic, like, in general, you should treat people the way you want to be treated. So, I mean, I feel like that's a given.
Yeah.
And I guess don't show up, read, and go home, because that seems to be kind of a dickhead thing to do too. Spew your poem and then say, hey, I'm out. Good luck, type of thing. That seems
I absolutely understand that, being frustrating to people, but I unfortunately, I feel like that is a battle that you and I will lose. If you do that, though, I'm going to notice it.
Right.
I have booked my open micers, and here's the thing: if you don't stick around and be polite, the odds of me booking you went way down. And I noticed that. We have had discussions of like, man, so-and-so was really good, but they left right after their set. So, like, they're really going to have to wow us one more time. What if that's the only trick they got? And I will talk about you with my friend. Again, you're getting talked about at Denny's. It's, you don't want to be the guy where, I've worked in restaurants off and on my entire working life. I've bartended, I've waited tables, and I always wonder, and she works in retail, and you could tell me the same thing, I bet. I always wonder if people know we're in the back of the restaurant or the store doing a silly impression of you. It's the same thing. If you leave, we are talking about this.
You want to be remembered for your amazing set, not for the rude behaviors you exhibited.
Right.
It takes 2 seconds to shoot a message, be like, hey, sorry I had to leave.
Right.
People do have lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally understandable.
But our event ends at 9 o'clock. So I'm also like, I don't mean to be a brat, but like, we had a performer tell us once that like they couldn't do it because it was too far, and I was like, that's fair. But then I remember thinking, I know how far you live. I know what your day job is. You're not up till 11 o'clock? Because most of us are. Yeah. And like, I'm not like mad, because you also could have told me fuck you, and I would have had to respond accordingly to that. But at the same time, I do think about this. I think about the stuff she and I have driven all the way to and been like, all right, guess we're going to like sacrifice our sleep schedule for our art. Right. And everybody, that's a cost. I mean, there's a give and a take to anything. It's Kung Fu, It's, you make these choices. And I mean, you got work in the morning. We're up on Zoom. It's, but it's also like what? 10:30, like we're gonna be okay.
Oh yeah. My boss is texting me about some scene drama right now, actually, that unrelated to us and anything that we do, but she's got some weird tangential connections, and she would have never been exposed to this if not for me. Oh God, no. But she's fascinated by the inner workings of these weird mechanisms of poetry community and comedy community, and like where they kind of intersect like this. Or like even kind of go boop boop. So she's just fascinated all the time, asking me to explain things to her. Like, oh, but then how does this work? Or
Nothing makes me happier. Dawn is on, the hammock writer there. That is our buddy Dawn. Hi Dawn, we love you. We just talked about you like a lot.
Hi Dawn.
You missed it.
If you want a writer's workshop, there's your gal. So then I think it's important to factor in a lot of times, though, that some people don't know that etiquette. It's an expression I use. Like, if this is your first time at something, you don't know that it's actually rude. I mean, I think it's common sense, but I had different parents than a lot of other people. So I don't, Again,
so like, let's say.
Yeah, I'd like you to stay.
For like this Saturday, you're featuring. So again, this is as kind of a side, because I know this is your friend Billy Max open that they're running, but you're being featured, Brianna. If somebody was showing up to that, what would be the etiquette as far as signing up? Like again, like like if you're just starting to do this and this is the first time you wanted to try it, what would you do? You'd show up, what would you do?
So their structure is a little bit different.
Yep.
Okay.
They do the exact opposite of what we do.
Yes, so
Okay.
they have the feature open.
All right.
We also advertise our open mic is limited. There's 8 to 10 slots. Like, it's first come, first serve. That is not the case at the Vibe.
Which is literally a third floor walk up in a wellness studio. There are yoga mats on the walls. It's a great space. It's so fun.
It's another very unique venue. Billy Mack and I seem to attract those somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just that
Homes in a movie theater.
Stroudsburgian luck. If that's what you want to call it, I guess. Wow, never thought I'd say the words Stroudsburgian and luck in succession.
Yeah, I think I threw up a little.
But
I thought it was
no, they'll, you know, as people are coming in and they're very welcoming. You know, they tell you, oh, the sign-up sheet's over there.
Okay.
They have the opener, the feature go. They start the open mic and they, you know, invite people to sign up. You know, I mean, it's people get, you know, nervous. I never had like stage fright as like a band kid or anything. I get it mostly when I'm hosting our own show, actually.
It does change because we have a stage, and the performer in me is a huge fan of telling people, look, you are going to read different. You are literally above your audience.
Right.
I know a lot of people who started out as theater kids who do poetry and stuff, and I love the difference between how, like, they read versus, like, actually, Dawn is a good example. Josh Dale is a great example. Our comedian friends who are so uncomfortable if we don't give them a microphone.
Yeah.
And whereas our poet friends who are used to standing at a podium like an educator or what have you, and we're like, okay, we're going to put you on this stage with a microphone. And I do remember asking one of our performers, hey, real quick, do you need me to give you like 2-minute microphone class? And they were like, please. And I was like, come on up here with me. And kind of talking them through, okay, here's how far away from the mic you need to be. Here's how this works. I can't tell you how many people I've known over the years who just need a 2-minute microphone class.
Yeah.
It's intimidating.
Yes.
But
I would agree.
to finish the answer to your question,
Sorry.
no, you're fine. At the end of the mic at the Vibe, they will ask, you know, once they're done with all their open micers, if anybody else wants to sign up or if anybody wants to go up a second round.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Okay.
Which is something unique to them that I haven't really seen done before. Besides at like library readings, because we went to the library reading for.
We were asked to go to the local library recently, and that was interesting.
Worked out
cool.
for us because they're advertising our event because they really want to boost
I
literacy in the community.
And it's an all-age
So-
show, so that's huge. They're going to want their teens to go there and check it out. I would think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone there was like very close to death.
Yeah. I
I
used to be a teenage volunteer at that library.
have
so-
never felt
My first
younger.
job was at a library page. Oh, yeah. You never felt younger. They loved it.
It was
though.
something.
They loved
Yeah.
it.
I mean,
Oh,
don't get me wrong, I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we did it, but it was
They were
yeah.
expecting
I'm
Robert
a-
Frost, and you showed up. Because that kind
yeah.
They were
They
looking
wanted
for,
Emily
like,
Dickinson, and I wanted to shove my head in an oven.
They wanted
yeah.
an Edgar Allan Poe telling of The Raven, you know, from
Yeah.
scratch, and then you were like, I'm going to do this.
And I was scared to
I
go
can see it.
up there and read my poem about a young woman who quits her job at Cinnabon by going, fuck you. Yeah.
It was a very academic room.
I don't even know if I'd go that far. That's kinder than I would have gone.
Oh.
It was a lot of 60-year-old white men just
I
talking
think
about
we've all got a picture of that kind of guy. I think we
Yeah.
know that type.
Brianna read a poem about being Jewish because we're Jewish, and in a small town where I don't always want to tell people I'm Jewish. Probably not terrible. We get a lot of those trucks too, Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we live in the north. It's weird. I always want to look at them and go, you know, we live in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There is much discourse on the internet right now about if Southern accents exist in Pennsylvania, and I'm like, you have clearly never been to Pennsylvania in your life.
Yeah, it's a thing.
These people really do believe they are Southern.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true.
When they hop in their Confederate flag, yee truck, and I refuse to call them anything else.
I'm a big fan of saying that sometimes these scenes have attracted a few too many straight white men who really like to talk over everyone.
The loudest voice in the room.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, I'm glad you're getting to do this and not seeking therapy, but I mean that's awesome. Good luck with whatever you choose to do. I'm gonna stand over there. But Brianna, you read that poem. I'm gonna screw it. These library people are never gonna be on a computer. So Brianna read a poem about being Jewish, which I liked the piece, and the gentleman then decides to beeline over to the 20-something young lady and start asking her if she went to the local temple. He made it very awkward.
He just starts harassing me about being Jewish.
Oh, wow.
He tells me some really, really super racist joke about Chinese people and Jewish people. And I'm like, oh, that's really funny, because neither of us even gets our own month. Like, May is both Jewish American Heritage Month and Asian American Heritage Month. So, like, the fact that this joke exists is really fucked up. I really,
but he's like, I know who I can talk to about this joke I've had.
Yeah.
It's her. Oh,
Yeah, it was real awkward. The poor librarian is sitting there, just white face,
unable to say anything, because like what is she supposed to do? Like, she needs that tax money, and she needs this event to be successful.
One more moment where my social skills pop out, and I just go over to her and go, "Sweetie, remember when I told you you get to meet a lot of awkward old white men?" This
is after they were like, "There's no poetry in this community anymore."
And we're like, so anyway, we're coming up on a year of popcorn poetry, and you're all invited.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll be there. Yes, at the theater. Okay.
Yeah.
And that guy's gonna be his friends, because they're gonna be like, I know people of the Jewish faith now. We could go see them. Is that how? So they might be there.
Yeah, we all know each other. It's great.
Well, I'll tell you what,
I do know your cousin Joshua. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
My mom was afraid. I mean, my mom's Jewish, my dad was not, but we were kind of raised Jewish, but we were not really practicing. But so we shamed my family completely. Never learned Hebrew, so very much shamed my family. I'm not a woman. I've never had a bat mitzvah or anything like that. But she was afraid for me to go to Elmira College, because that was one of the choices for me, because she was afraid it was going to be like school tides and they were going to figure it out and all that stuff. You're pointing. Why are you pointing? What's going on?
My whole family's from Elmira.
There you go.
The corny Ithaca area, because you don't want to say Elmira.
Right.
Yeah. No, Elmira's great. I love Elmira. They own a weird piece of the Mark Twain estate.
Okay.
Oh,
I've that up.
No. The college is very small and very sad, and it used to be a women's college. You didn't miss much.
I didn't.
You're good.
Well, they're like, going to give you $40,000, and that wasn't anything.
It is a prison town. It is a prison town. They have. If you watch a lot of Law and Order, they talk a lot about Elmira, because it is the intake facility for the state. It is also, I don't know if this stat is still accurate, but it used to be the largest maximum security prison without a fence in the country.
I'll get the research team to check that back for you.
The research team. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. This has been Elmira Talk with the hashtag No More Poems Popcorn Poetry Crowd.
People who don't live in New York are talking about places in New York.
Yeah.
I've never been there. Well, you were from there.
Yeah,
I've never been there,
Yeah, my mom and dad are both from there. My grandparents lived there until they died. Yeah, that was home. You aren't missing anything if you've never been there. I wouldn't plan a trip. Like Tommy Hilfiger is from there. If that means anything to you.
Hold on. You didn't start with that?
Yeah, I mean that's like their big claim to fame is like they built a hockey arena in the downtown, and then I can talk about Elmira for hours. Eliminating all of the downtown businesses and they asked Tommy Hilfiger if he wanted his name on it, asked him for a bunch of money. He said, that seems like a lot of money. I think I'm good. Then the next people they asked for less money. He found out and got mad. There's your Elmira tea, everybody.
I mean, that's what you mean by community. You know what I mean? Those are kind of things when you say community. Those are the people that show up.
Yeah. Tommy Hilfiger was like,
if you're
I probably would have said the same thing.
Oh my God. We're about to be done with this, but I just fucked that up. Go ahead, Carlton.
Hey, before my phone dies, which is a strong possibility at this moment, I want to comment on Carlton's, this straight white guy. Lots of those hanging around. Before this dies, I want to say this: the most interesting stuff that I am seeing, online, I guess, is mainly coming 95% at least from women rather than the dudes, because you got this whole Bukowski bullshit pose. Everybody wants to be a little Hank, but
don't you want to be edgy?
Boring. At least to me, I'm bored with that shit. So the cool stuff I'm seeing, the most interesting stuff is coming from the women, more so than those straight white dudes that have flooded, the area. So, and I'm
they're
talking
supposed
whole
to make the
poetry,
sandwiches and the babies.
Huh?
Nothing.
Okay.
He's making fun of misogyny.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if he was saying the men were supposed to be doing that now. Is that what you were saying? Or you were saying the women were supposed to be back in the kitchen?
No, women should be allowed to vote.
No, he's
barefoot and pregnant,
I know. He's
there it is. He gets it.
Barefoot and pregnant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, these are definitely things I believe. I'm probably even more canceled now.
That may be why I'm single. Yeah.
Oh, you're lucky you're pretty, baby.
Hey.
Thanks for not having any opinions.
If I was one of those 18-year-olds you were talking about, 16-year-olds, I would have taken my lady to a thing like what you all are putting on. Because there's a certain type of girl
I didn't
like
talk
that
about any
sad poet
16-year-olds,
boy.
I promise. Nothing.
I'm missing every. I'm sorry. I'm sure it was funny though.
This is the part where everything just starts to get out of hand because we got off topic with the maximum security prison with no fence when we were talking about your poetry situation. But again, so if you're just joining us, we're kind of hitting towards the end of the second hour here. But we're talking to the Carlton and Brianna Booker, who are featuring with the Popcorn Poetry in June 12th. But also, Brianna's going to be featured this weekend, 5-6, also in that Pennsylvania area. But there is one more
Hamburg.
thing. Hamburg. I just said Pennsylvania. I didn't say city-wise. But
You're good.
Thank you. I'm trying here. But
Doing great.
What else do you guys do? I know that's not just the only thing. 'Cause I do want to hear maybe you guys give us a taste of your kind of work before we end us tonight. But before we do that, I know that's not just the only things you guys do. I know, Brianna, there's something else that you kind of are really passionate about. I know that I would like to hear about it a little bit more because that's kind of an interesting, you kind of have an extra piece to you where you are kind of doing something else. Is that fair to ask about?
Oh, yeah. I'm running NoBudgetBeauty.com. So I work for Estee Lauder. They're a great company to work for. No, they really are. I mean, I have this older coworker who's like, oh, they're such a great company to work for. They're not racist. And I'm like, that's kind of like the bare minimum that you need for a company to be good to work for. How about the fact that they're now giving part-timers paid time off?
Okay.
And they're starting
really
basic humanity.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
not racist. That's good.
Yeah, they're starting to roll out some extra benefits for the part-timers like me. And I mean, I get paid like a really good hourly wage for a retail worker in the area. Like, no, they really are like paying like fair wages. They, they've even started doing like these cost of living analyses of where every employee lives, and they adjusted our pay at one point.
Oh, wow.
For the purpose of that being like, hey, this person really isn't making enough money to survive where they live, so like we're gonna bump it up a little, which was really nice. But my goals with my writing are not to get famous off of poetry. I don't ever expect that to be a thing. But I'm getting my creative writing and English degree from Southern New Hampshire University. And I was like, hey, I'm really into some specific types of content writing. And with the rise of like beauty gurus on TikTok and, you know, stuff like that, there's like this whole community of like people who just blog and write reviews of different beauty products and stuff. And I thought, you know, why can't I do that and kind of have a writing portfolio for when I start applying to like marketing jobs once I graduate. And it's a lot of fun. This is a nice little look I did inspired by Gengar. You probably can't see it too well. There's glitter all over my face. But I mean, writing.
Really like what you do with that, because again, I know that's kind of a off kind of kilter thing, but that's kind of nice that you're bringing in that part of yourself too. I think that's kind of cool. Are you getting a lot of response from that, from both sides, or you're kind of just practicing because you're building your portfolio?
I mean, it's mostly to build the portfolio. Being autistic, like growing up, it was a little difficult to, you know, because the way I was taught to, and I believe you work in special education if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah. So you've probably seen things about like, oh, this special education department forced that kid to eat his own vomit recently, things like that. But like I had a lot of ABA tactics even in the general classroom. So like there were clip charts present, and you're gonna have extrinsic motivation, like you're gonna do your homework because you're gonna get a sticker for completion, and you're, you know, gonna do this thing because we're gonna give you your favorite snack after. So there's been a lot of learning to unlearn that extrinsic motivator of like, no, I'm doing this to bring myself inner joy, and there doesn't have to be a tangible reward for it. Because that got really dangerous at a few points. Like my ARFID got really bad because I was using food as such an aggressive reward in my late adolescence, and it was so bad. But I feel like I'm doing pretty well with it. And some posts do get a really good response. And that's always nice when it does happen, but I don't expect it.
Right.
I have been to every makeup store that ever was a makeup store.
I'm
awesome.
That's true.
That's the other thing is I think makeup store employees, and he can attest to this, we are trauma bonded, okay? When we were in an Ulta yesterday to get the blush that I used for this look. And I look at the girl and I go, I work at a makeup store. If you don't have it, that's okay. And just the tension that released from her shoulders, the way her jaw unclenched. She was like, she was like, oh yeah, well, you know how these people are, they come in and they say, I want a purple blush, and they're like, purple, and you're like, what kind of purple? And then what they really meant was orange.
Shout out to Nicole with 2 L's at the Ulta at the American Dream Mall.
Nicole with 2 L's. Thank you, Nicole. We love you.
Yep.
No,
the blog has been going great.
We love Ulta. We're hoping to get sponsored by Ulta.
I'm not allowed sponsorships if I want to keep my job with Estee Lauder, unfortunately. I can maybe. Oh well, yeah, you go right ahead.
Well, I'm just kidding. Not for me. I don't do any of those. I'm just saying, getting some sponsorship for this because, again, like you said, nobody actually.
I'm not kidding. If ColourPop wants to throw a few shekels our way, we'll take them.
Okay.
He has bought me so much ColourPop over the years.
ColourPop, you're hearing it first.
No, you've been doing great with that. That and not to hijack this, but we are technically publishers now.
Yes, I want to talk about all of this stuff. That's kind of where we're transitioning. So
I do.
Brianna has our
the books.
Okay, so talk about your books. Talk about the publishing and the books and the stuff that you guys do.
Well, we were very adamant when we started this that we didn't want to do 1,000 books, to be low key and to do what we're doing, and to really, it's very invite only. The first book we put together was with our friend Chad Frame, who isn't even on Instagram, so don't even try. But he is the poet laureate for Montgomery County. And one night after a reading in the Lehigh Valley, we went to a diner, and Chad had told me he had a manuscript laying around that was all poems from the perspective and about a chupacabra. And I was like, I remember this because so Cryptid was born. He sent it to us, and we were like, wow, we don't even really have to do much work on this. This is awesome.
Wow.
I have feelers out to friends about what the next book will be. I don't want to speak on it because it might change. As of right now, it might be Zach Hammond doing some comedy stuff. It might be our friend Randy Hudgen. It might be Rissa that we mentioned earlier. It might be some magical fifth or fourth thing. It might just be a cat. Who knows? But yeah, and we went. It was very important to us that this wasn't something we like made at our kitchen table. It wasn't like a little arts and crafts project.
Right.
It was.
Can you hold
we
that
found a
back
printer.
up again? Because it looks like really, I don't want to say legit.
Want to hold it back up?
Again, because you're talking like not a small chapbook style, but really, hold the book up. Hold the book. Yeah, the quality of that.
Glossy
really
covers,
nice. Yeah.
paper stock. We had a whole discussion with our printer about it all. This one specifically actually is a flip book.
Okay.
It's hard to show holding it up,
but it was important to us.
To see it. So where can we get
Hold
that?
on. Let me see. Karen Leonard, www.kaellynn.com is the artist who did the flip book in.
Okay.
That said, we wanted to do these as though they were like a done-in-one. It's like a pop-up idea. Mixtapes out of the car trunk was always kind of the idea. And that was really important to us. We may pivot on that in the future. We're not 100% sure, but as of right now, that was the goal. We then published our first split chap together. Just two kids, which was very fun for us. This is Brianna's reader copy that is beat to hell.
That's right.
It was kind of beat up when I picked it, but I wanted to take one that was already kind of beat up when we
Books
picked
are meant
them
to be
up.
read. I'm cool with it.
Because I wanted to give people better quality ones, and then our bios are on the back here.
That's cool. I have a question about that.
Go ahead.
How did you guys come up with the concept of that split chapbook, and how did you guys work together on that? That's kind of an interesting question.
It was an absolute accident. We had both kind of thrown the poems in a pile, and we realized that sitting next to each other, there was a narrative throughout of two girls.
Okay.
Emily and Haley, who definitely, like, if you look in between the pieces, they know each other. We were very proud of that accident.
They're high schoolers who had their falling out before they went off to college and, or graduated and, like, kind of drifted apart and had their, big fight as teenage girls do.
And I think there's some closure by the end. In my first book, I wrote a piece, and I jokingly always refer to it as a guidebook to surviving in the arts like a narcissist. It's kind of like it's actually the first piece Brianna ever heard me read. And it's the piece in this book that is like the closure piece is kind of the one character kind of figuring out this is a way to live my life. If I want to, life is about surviving. And I think that's where that character would wind up. Whereas Brianna has, I'll let you talk about your pieces, but.
And while you do that, how did it feel to hear that piece, that piece that he read out loud? You said that was the first one she had heard you read. What was that like for you as an audience member?
The Interbellum?
Well, I think she's asking about, oh my goodness, I'm having an old man moment.
Sorry, in his discussion, I think he meant.
She's asking about insert.
Yeah, I don't know why that was like, okay. Yeah.
You're looking at it in the book.
Yeah. I think it was my first exposure to, like, poetry at an open mic night, to be completely honest with you. At least something that wasn't like, and the sky is blue, and my dad didn't love me, and my ex-boyfriend is a rapist, and I can't afford therapy, so I write poetry.
My boyfriend, he gave me a sweater. It was green. I love it. I love him. It smells like him. I wear it on Thursdays. There is a tree. It is an oak tree. It is near my school. I eat an apple under the tree. I am edgy. I am so edgy. I am deep. I am dark. You will never know my darkness. I have my period. I am Judy Bloom.
I have a segue here because Because the other way that this poetry could go, where it's not a diary entry, is I am so horny. Look at me and my not very large tits that I hoisted up. I want dick. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I want dick. I'm so horny, horny, horny. This is poetry. Please fuck me. I am so lonely.
I am
In all
poetry.
fairness, in all fairness,
I gotta interrupt both of you real quick. If you are just joining us, that is not their poetry. They are not reading their poetry right now. So sorry,
Damn, I was hoping
people do that.
it was.
I mean, that's my greatest honor.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
I do have a poem that parodies those horny poems, because I did like a poetry reading on campus at my previous university called Febunasty, where they wanted us to read poems like that, and I was like, no, I refuse. And like we would sit in our poetry club and we would like workshop, and so we talked a little bit about like our writing influences, and the only poet I could come up with was Raymond Carver. And so I was like, no, I really don't have much of a poetry influence. I have more of a literature influence from John Green. And in his book, The Fault in Our Stars, which I use a lot in classes when I talk about the value of young adult literature and how you can use it to teach literature to students. Right. Yeah, and especially, and so in The Fault in Our Stars, you know, Gus is always saying, it's a metaphor. You put the killing thing between your teeth, but you don't give it the power to kill you. But it's not, he's using metaphor wrong. So I'm explaining throughout the piece what metaphors are, because I feel like so many people try to kind of copy that weird, pretentious, I'm a teenager and I'm dying, and depression is a side effect of dying, not cancer type of writing. And it's, no, you're using metaphor wrong. You're taking the wrong things away from this. So that was kind of the inspiration for that piece.
That's cool.
Some art sucks.
Just because you spend a long time on something, like I have written things and I'm like, this is absolutely horrible. I'm never showing this to anybody. Like, you're allowed to make bad art, but maybe hide it in your attic. Don't advertise that you did that.
The idea
Oh my God.
that there is good art implies the idea that there is a middle, which implies the idea that there is sometimes things that maybe, look, go ahead and share it, that's great, but some things just aren't great.
No.
And someone needs to tell you that.
And that's true. Feedback's important because that's how we grow. If we continuously try and we're at the middle and we don't try to get better, then we'll stay at the middle. And you got to be, it's not emotional. That's I think it's very difficult because poetry and putting our art out there, it's like, this is my actual body or my baby. And then we want to feel emotional. But I think you're absolutely right. You got to be open to the criticism because it's not negative. It's just good, honest feedback, and you don't have to take it. But I think you've actually seen people improve because of it. I mean, not to go back to the comedians, but that's really where comedians are going to, you cannot improve without taking that honest criticism in the community.
Everybody starts somewhere, and not to make it about me, but like with the blog and stuff, like I'm constantly trying to ask people for feedback because I want to know how is this user interface, and I want to know, especially because if we ever do pivot, like, you know, I have to know how to build the website for the publishing house, and so this is good practice for that as well. And it's important
to know who your client is going to be. I mean, whatever that means.
And you know what they would want out of it. And sometimes, like, it's hard not to take those things a little too personal, but at the end of the day, like, this website is not just for me. If I'm sharing it with other people, like, that means I want other people looking at it, and I want other people to enjoy it. So,
and I think that's really important. That's, I think, important kind of point that you made, because it's more of a professionally acting ideology. That feedback's important. So again, if you're trying to increase your poetic form in a professional-esque type way, you have to be open to that and seek it out. I think writers' workshops and things like that. Do you guys trade work with each other, or you guys write a lot still, or because you guys are so busy, what's the deal?
I write every day. A lot of it's bad.
But that's
a lot of it's really, really bad.
But
I write every day.
Write every day. Okay.
The least popular viewpoint I think I have, other than women aren't people, is
I'm letting
which
you
I
know you're
feel
not
obligated to
serious.
clarify as a joke. Not a very funny
I
one.
got it.
But the or I really mean it. Who knows?
I think
But the
Brianna knows.
yeah, you're not human. I love you dearly, but in the ways that I love a flower. So the it is one of the stronger views I think I have, unfortunately, is that writer's block doesn't exist. You just aren't a writer right now.
Okay, I think that's a fair statement. I don't disagree with that.
I mean, that said, I mean, there was a time where I was in a weird, I'm gonna go fuck with the artsy people moment, and I read a grocery list on a stage, and they all loved it. So sometimes it's, I mean, it.
Are you?
I think it's.
Maybe are you a performance artist? Maybe this. You are a performance artist.
I mean, I do performance poetry. That's what I do.
But
I mean, each of our books literally says an assemblage of words meant for performance. I mean, that's what we do. We are definitely people who write poetry that is meant to be read aloud.
Okay.
We specifically. Well, you not as much, actually.
I maybe have some pieces that read fine on the page, and that is where I think some of that more academic Raymond Carver type of influence comes from. But there are definitely poems, like the one that opens our chapbook, that really doesn't read great on the page, because there are like certain things where, like, when I read it, like, I make a funny voice to make fun of this character that I'm writing.
Well, that was one of the realizations we had, is the first two pieces, Emily and Haley, or Haley and Emily, however you want to do it. We both do a voice while we read them. And this was where we realized, we had something going. There's a narrative here.
Yeah.
And albeit something we kind of discovered, but it was definitely like, we were like, oh, wow, there's like a narrative here. This is fun, and it's about two kids, and I mean, it's also, I guess, about us, but at the same time, it's,
When I was putting the manuscript together, because that's kind of my role in this, he's the producer, he's the financial backer of this whole project, and also the owner of the LLC.
Because he's the man,
but
right?
he looks at me and he goes, you put it together and send it off to the person that we got to send it off to, and then I'll show up with the money.
Yeah, I don't do much.
Yeah.
I'm a white property-owning male. I don't have to do shit.
I have more free time. It really just kind of works out better that way anyway. Then it's something I can say that I do, like, in my weird little college classes and when I apply to jobs and stuff, and be like, this is this little project that I work on, and here's a tangible product from that. And people go, ooh. But there were two different versions of the manuscript that I was like, read these, tell me which you like better. And he was like, no, like, we need to alternate because these characters complement each other, like these character pieces. And I mean, I don't know if you would say this about your poetry, but in my bio on the back of the book, specifically in the bio that, like, I submit to things, I specifically say that I write poetry largely based on identities or lack thereof.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. Can I ask a real quick question? Can I hear you read one character and Carlton read the other character? Is that too much to ask, or could I hear that real quick?
No. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
So do you want to read Haley, or?
Yeah, let's go in order in the book.
All right, sounds good.
And Haley moved out to the West Coast to get away from it all. Southern California is what some people like her need. She's an 18-year-old junior in college with a paid internship at Google. Nothing exciting. She only deals with customer service chats, like the ones from dudes whose biggest hobbies are screaming at video games early in the morning and correcting Google Maps late at night. It's worth the $15 an hour to get treated like shit as a woman trying to make it in the STEM field. Maybe that's why Haley thinks the coolest thing about her is the fact that she's fucked on 4 out of 5 campuses in her consortium with 2 different boys. Something that probably isn't that hard to do when you're always the new shiny thing everyone's after, especially when you start hoarding yourself out for weed and booze to self-medicate with, when you skip class and waste your parents' money. Being a sexual deviant doesn't make you interesting. Haley isn't like the other girls, but she'll never say those words out loud, no matter how much she believes them or how often it's shoved in her face that she lives it. All that walking around made her lose the dancer's arch in her foot that she never even realized she had until it was already gone. And who would have ever expected a Bible quiz champ to become her own pimp? She's never had friends, not real ones anyway. She never will if she keeps living her life like this. Blaming homeschooling for a lack of social skills only works for so long, and she's spent enough time in college that it becomes obvious. The truth is that she just doesn't care all that much about the other people in the world. She posts cover videos of modern baseball songs, showcasing her mediocre guitar skills and less than average voice, and sticks her nose up at her ex-best friend for not considering Weezer an influential band. She can't bring herself to admit none of this matters. She's being ridiculous. It's about nothing to everyone else, but not to her. If you are not to her liking, then you get treated like shit over nothing and things that don't matter until she drops you like a fly. She turns these inconsequential things into deep emotional offenses, all so she can fulfill her incessant need to always be right all the time. She gets away with it because she's a pretty girl who can be just a pretty girl and make it work. Haley takes a good look at her life sometimes and wonders why it's other people who are always leaving her behind, and now LA's changed her, but not for the better. Moving west never solved anyone's problems. And I think everyone knows that girl.
Mm-hmm.
I have to
I
argue
loved
with
it.
the Weezer comment, though, because I don't want to be an old man, shaking on the dance floor thing. That's, we all know the Weezer song.
I think it was a bit much to end a friendship over.
Well,
like
I don't know.
That was like the catalyst.
Hey.
I don't know, man. That Blue album slapped.
Pinkerton's so much better. I could end a friendship over Pinkerton. I could.
That part of the poem is based on a true story, and that part is about a girl I know who was friends with this girl whose sister I was friends with, and she was like, yeah, and then she told her she was a piece of shit because she didn't think that Weezer was an influential band, and that just stuck out to me. And I get a lot of laughs when I read that line sometimes.
I love that part.
And sometimes I do that Buddy Wakefield thing, which, fun fact, I've never heard a Buddy Wakefield piece, I don't think. I've never seen him perform. But I learned that this is a Buddy Wakefield trick from Carlton. I will go in and out of the piece where I'll stop reading and have an aside, not to cover your face, and have an aside during that, and I'll be like, that's, I'll have something to say, can we talk about how people really think moving to California is gonna solve everything? It's not, bro. Get a fucking job.
I've lived there. It's a horrible place.
Right?
Always. Move away, have a baby, have a threesome, it'll fix all your problems.
Exactly.
I love when that Weezer, people latch onto that Weezer line. Holy cow.
I love that. That really stood out to me. I really liked that. That was great.
It's based in truth, too. That makes it even better.
Yeah.
That really kind of happened, in a sense, and it really did stick out to you. That's cool, for sure. So now we have the other character, the other half happening now.
So we I hate to say this because it'll probably get me canceled if it's taken out of context or something. But I know young people. It's a weird thing that happens in my life because I'm a weird older dude and I used to teach, so sometimes I'll work with other people, and our friend Maddie, for example, I've known since she was 15, who sometimes hosts our event with us. And she actually, her and Zach Hammond had guest hosting. We did the book launch, and it's kind of weird to feature yourselves, but January's a dead month, so we were this way we don't have to worry about anybody getting canceled for snow or whatever. And I mentioned the Breaking Ground Poets kids and Olivia Romano, and they are very much the inspiration for this piece.
Oh, cool.
And that was the point I was doing there. I find it's very, I would not like to be a young person in this day and age.
Oh, absolutely.
I was born the same year as E.T. It sounds exhausting to have to be 19 in these days. It just sounds my posture's already bad. I can only imagine how bad theirs is. They're clenching their shoulders all day. So this is Emily. Yeah. We both coincidentally had pieces that just had girls' names. But I always say this is for those kids. So there you go. And sometimes it's a little hard not to be the star of the show. But you see, what we have here is a spoiled little rich girl. Spends most of her days begging for things to change. and she looks like a big ticket lotto win. She looks like television. She looks like shiny. She looks like a wide-eyed, Disney-fied, softcore porno version of herself. And it took 3 eyeballings from 2 different old ladies to make all 4 feet, 11 inches of green-eyed, freckle-faced, brown-haired Emily realize she'd been crying. See, Emily just been fired from her shit job at Cinnabon, where after showing up 20 minutes late, she'd given the finger to some customer that had asked for more icing, and she looks broken. She looks lost. She looks hungry. She is hungry. She's hungry for experience. She's hungry for excitement. She's hungry for adventure. Emily's taken too many pills Thanksgiving weekend some 6 years back and will always regret it even now over half a decade later. And she wants to be the sort that's been someplace, done something. She wants to tell stories. She wants to have stories to tell. She wants heartbreak, and she wants to break hearts, to know what it is to be heartbroken. Emily tasted like spearmint and cigarettes. We kissed on the street, shielded by a payphone kiosk, and after her mouth, it twisted itself into something like a grin. And that was when I realized that Emily was every bit as nervous as I had been nervous, but at least she wasn't crying anymore. And sometimes it's a little hard not to be the star of the show, or so she tells me. She wants to scream at these people. She wants to tell them how much she hates whenever they use her full name, or so she tells me. And it's hard and getting harder to tell if they're acting like jerks because they're actually jerks, or if they just don't know how to act because they all think they were a bunch of fuck-damn social outcasts back in high school. She wants to scream at these people. No more conversations, no more bullshit, none. No more bullshitting about bullshit, about rumors, about this band, or small talk about that food, and bullshit about gossip about how have you been? And I know, right? And you can make soap out of garlic. And how's the new job going for you? And Venus is in retrograde, but I really like him, you know. Thing is, with the stars the way they are, it's complicated. And are you still living at the same place? And remember that time when bullshit about chit-chat about the last time they saw each other? And oh my God, everybody just shut the fuck up because she wants to scream at these people. She wants to scream at them and their simplicity without being a hypocrite. She wants to stop. She wants to stop. She wants them to stop. She wants to stop surrounding herself with broken people at dead ends. She wants to stop herself. She wants to stop. She wants to stop herself. She wants reasons. She wants reason. She wants to reason with them. She wants to be reasoned with. She wants to scream at these people. She wants to stop. And sometimes it's a little hard not to be the star of the show, but see, what we have here is a spoiled little rich girl. Spends most of her days begging on things to change. And that's kind of hard to do in this town, so maybe try to go a little easy on her, okay?
Dang.
Man, guys, was great. Loved it.
One
The compliment.
of the interpretations that I am surprised that nobody has told us they have taken away from this book is seeing Emily and Haley as the speakers of each other's poems. But I also, I think about it, and I'm like, most people choose to be they choose as the author to be the speaker of their poem, which probably is why so many people think whenever I write a character piece that it's about a specific person, and usually it is about a type of person. Yeah. It's like, well, if you think it's about you and it's this really critical piece, you might want to look into that.
Yeah, you feel a little guilty. You're feeling a little
because it wasn't
about
about you, but now my gears are working.
I grew up in an era where you get to be a fan of the Counting Crows, and there's there you go. There's a piece of Maria in every song that I sing is Adam Duritz confessing that like the female character is always him. And I think that's important to sometimes I'm not talking about what you think, or she's not talking about they're just devices we're using to get a point, to make an emotion. Our job is to make you feel something. Our job is not necessarily to make you feel something about me.
I am taking a context of writing course at the moment for my degree, and we are supposed to basically, in my case, I chose to write my second manuscript just to have it ready, and get some feedback on it from someone who doesn't have that personal connection with me. And specifically, a lot of what is in my pieces, and Rissa said this in her review of this book actually, is that a lot of what I write focuses on trauma, whether that's, what's the word? Obvious or kind of subversive. I'm assuming you know this. Other people can Google it if they don't know what it is. But I grew up with a very high ACE score. Like I'm, you know, I had a very traumatized, and I'm, you know, part of these marginalized groups. Like I'm an autistic, Middle Eastern, Jewish woman in the United States. Like that adds to this whole thing of like, and then I came from a broken home with a biological father who kind of ran a sex cult, which I don't want to get into. And like a mother who was mentally ill and had no family to help her. Right. And I had a great stepdad, but like at the end of the day, like those things still affect you. Oh. And I had half siblings, and there was a lot of trauma on their end that affected me, because it's hard to watch people that you love go through things like that. Sure. And then, you know, the loss at a young age.
Yeah, at 16, to lose a friend at that time is very difficult. For sure, I can imagine that. And then continue what you're saying is, so those things are not necessarily a reflection, but they're part of just the expression of the feelings that you're trying to emote, even though it's not about that. It's just those are the sensational feelings that you're trying to achieve.
I mean, ACE scores specifically, like the majority of people do not have like a 0 ACE score. Like most people have some amount of trauma in their lives, and being able to see that in an art form that is accessible to you is important. I mean, Candace Owens said something about like representation does not matter. And in the context she was saying about a disabled person modeling underwear made for disabled people. Right. And saying we don't need disabled people to model the disabled underwear. And we were like, you know what you're talking about? Yeah. And, you know, as a Black woman, it was very strange to me that she's like, diversity, we don't need a black Little Mermaid.
She like, goes a little further than that sometimes. Yeah. She's a great lady, and she, I want to say real quickly, reflection. Everyone wants to see themselves reflected, you know, and that's what art should do, right? Is reflect, experience your art allowing me to be seen when, you know, say I'm a person who's not typically seen. So, you know, when art reflects and shows you, I guess, yourself within somebody else's experience, I think that's awesome. I mean, that's kind of what you're trying to do, right? I mean, is you know, reflect back or give somebody a place to be seen within literature when they're reading. Like, hey, I know that person, right? I've been that person type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, back to the John Cree thing, I mean, you can attest to this. Being like a teenager growing up in these weird little scenes, these pocket communities, especially as a young person, like you kind of get thought of as something more than a person or an individual, which John Green has a whole novel about this entire concept. And my friend who I lost would literally call me. He'd be like, Margot Roth Spiegelman. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you are the Margot Roth Spiegelman of Stroudsburg. Like, nobody knows anything about you, but everybody, if I say your name, everybody knows who you are. Like, it's very weird to me. And I, you know, nowadays I like to say that he is my Alaska Young, because nobody really understands what happened. They just kind of found him, and everybody's like, so was this on purpose? Was it an accident? We don't know. Same with Alaska Young and Looking for Alaska, but I'll let other people read the book.
Spoiler alert.
It's all right. But
Bruce Willis was dead the whole time.
No.
I've never seen that movie.
No.
But I think it's very important too. Our job is to make you feel an emotion. The musician's job is to get you to tap your foot or get you to go, ooh. You know, the comedian's job is to make you laugh. Our job is to make you feel. I mean, I hate to say this, but if I go to the front of the room and everybody walks away angry, I did my job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, our friend Zach says often that his job is to do his time. That's kind of our job as a performer. If we get booked on a show, we have to go and we have to do our time, do our set. That's our job.
If you're paying me.
Yeah, otherwise, I mean, like if I didn't agree to do your show and you just magically put me on a flyer, but, you know, whatever. Yeah. I will say that, like, it is important, I think, that that's our job. It's my job. My responsibility as a poet is to make you feel an emotion. And if you laughed or you cried or you were angry or you were bothered, those are all feelings. things.
Yes.
We got the easiest job in the business. I just got to make you feel something. A juggler's got to take all those balls, keep them in the air the entire time. A clown's got to, I don't know, make you like look in a mirror and see yourself, or whatever psychology you can come up with there. But the trapeze guy has to do actual trapeze. I just got to make you feel. I got this.
I would say the comedian has to make you laugh, and that doesn't always happen. But feeling something can be sad, it can be happy, it can be angry, it can be anything. So I guess I don't think I disagree with that statement. But you're saying it's not hard to do. To feel something.
I don't know if it's not hard to do. I've never had a challenge with it. I mean, I'm comfortable saying that.
Okay.
I mean, I've performed at a lot of places where poets don't get to perform, and good is good. This is, you asked what they can expect. It's, I have a demand from the people I surround myself with as a person, and I hope I have very much encouraged this viewpoint with you and the other people we work with, that there's a quality control about what we surround ourselves with. I mean, the reason the publishing is invite only, the reason, like, we've had people hit us up for, like, hey, we want to do popcorn poetry, we want to be a featured performer, and we're like, okay, well, we really encourage you to come to the event first to see what it is. The stage can be difficult for people. I've watched people's hands shake, and I'm like, I mean, this is fun to watch.
It's not the same as getting up at the front of a coffee shop with no microphone, and I mean, like, there have been months where you have to use the microphone. Like, there's no, I'm gonna sit on the stage steps and just project. You're gonna damage your voice.
Right.
Yeah, this is a performer's room, very much. I mean, I don't want to deter anyone.
No,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've always known the rooms I've worked in to be relatively supportive. But and look, there are times where I've been in the back of the room and I've watched somebody's nervous, and I'm just like, you're doing great, you know. But it's important to me to point out, like, we do have a job as a performer. It's just not as precision as the other jobs. We're the MMA fighters. We get to learn jiu-jitsu and kung fu and all this other stuff, whereas the other guy knows he's a boxer. You know, whatever. And they got to zero in on one art form, you know, and they're masters of it. That's great. But we got to make you feel.
Yeah, you got to do it all. You got to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the timing, but you have to do it all. You have to adjust and ebb and flow. And I think that was some good advice too, that because you guys are, like you said, not monitoring the quality, but you know that it's going to be a certain level of care and professionalism. I mean, use the word professionalism, formality.
I'll take it.
Not coming up there because they wrote it and it's the first time they're doing it. These people have been practicing or showcased, hey, there's something here. This means something to me. I'm actually going to value what I'm doing, and ergo value what you're doing, and therefore that's where you're getting that community, because there's a value there, and care comes with that. It's not.
I also think that we make choices to work with people who, for lack of better wordage, are not assholes. I don't know if I can comfortably say we have ever booked anyone that somebody who was like a younger performer in their time of learning how to be a performer cannot walk up to after the show outside because the theater wants us gone because they want to go home. But we'll talk on the sidewalk. We'll go to Denny's with you, you know? And I don't think we've booked anyone that you cannot walk up to and go, hey, can we talk about what you did up there? And how I can turn that into my trick. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say the confirmation that we, you know, bring good people into that space is the fact that apparently the staff at the theater fight to work that night because the tips are so good, which really warms my heart because, you know, nobody has to buy concessions. I mean, they're open. People are welcome to them. And they're very reasonably priced. Like that, like you'd think like the independent movie theater would be expensive. Like, no, it's really cheap to go see a movie and get a popcorn, get a drink, and like they have amazing coffee there. It's insane how good the coffee is at this theater. And they have like a little deal with the local ice cream place. You can get the local homemade ice cream really cheap at this movie theater. And I mean, they're not usually open, so like to want to work the shift the night that the theater is closed because you're like, no, I'm gonna make good money because there are good people coming to this.
And it was
it's like a big deal.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot.
And the guy who runs the theater, who, I mean, it's run by a board of directors, but the guy who really,
Shout out to Kurt.
Yeah, Kurt is such a blessing. Such a nice guy. But he absolutely adores us. Like there's no doubt in my mind. He was like, oh my God, please, you know. And I told him, hey, we actually have to take a little break to take care of Carlton's health. He was like, oh my God, please let me know like how things go. I'm so sorry. And I remember when we were leaving, because I wasn't in the room when he had his seizure.
Oh wow,
it was
scary.
Yeah, her and the other hosts were actually outside. And
during the break, Chris had thought he was playing a joke on him, and then Chris, who is also an educator, stood up and was like, oh my God, like he's having a seizure, because obviously educators, you know, see that pretty often. And thankfully, like, our other friend is like nurse, and he's like trying to convince everybody, like, I'm okay, but I'm looking at him and he's sweating, he's puking, and we go to the hospital and there's blood, and I'm like, okay, no, we gotta go. And the poor girl working concessions is like, you guys are leaving already?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, sorry,
Mom. Yeah, I was very proud that night. Should not have been. Apparently I had a seizure. I don't know if you guys have heard. But no, but we will be, you know, we'll be back on June 12th, and I'm very excited. Yeah. But before that, I did Hamburg last month. She's going to be in Hamburg Saturday. Hamburg open mic night at the Vibe.
Connect and Thrive.
Yes, it is like a wellness center. They do like yoga classes and stuff, and
mindfulness. They do pole dancing classes.
Wow, that's cool.
But they also do this open mic night, and there's music, and I'm sure it will eventually, when the comedians find it, there will be comedy, and you know, often there is just like a dancing baby there.
Crouton.
Yeah, and the other baby though. Yeah, that is Crouton, Billy Mack's child, Kirby. Kirby,
musical act Crouton. Really loves that she gets to work at open mic.
Yeah.
And she likes to go up to Billy Mack while he's performing and go, Daddy, I want to snuggle. And he'll go, I can't snuggle right now. I'm playing a song. We can snuggle when I'm done. And it's actually really nice to see him like get to be a father and to see that be a part of this community. And this community hub, because very much it is a community hub. I know that he had some issues trying to find a venue that would allow him to have an open mic night that was free. Because he did talk to his local movie theater in his town, and I believe they wanted to charge for it, and he said, no, thank you.
And it's so nice to be surrounding ourselves with, where I am at a point as a performer where I get to say no a lot. Which is super fun. I like saying no. Makes me feel powerful, like a man.
I don't know what that's like.
Oh, great. Get to use urinals in my restrooms. It's awesome. But the point is that it's important to show people by example, I guess, that you're allowed to just not work with people you don't think are great. And we choose very purposely to work with people like Billy Mack because he's genuinely, like, he believes in the same ethics. I mean, I think it's important to surround yourselves with people who have strong values, and I think it's easy to find people who are doing something sinister or doing something for the wrong reasons. But not to sound like a broken record, but it's so important to us to not be around them.
Sometimes it feels like a detriment to have strong ethics in the battle, but it feels worth it in the war, if that makes sense. Because the people that are surrounding us end up being the quality people.
Well, can I just say, well, thank you both so much for allowing us to speak with you today. And that I'm going to almost say, because you all said that you allowed us to have this conversation, that you're going to consider this a good circle here, because you wouldn't have agreed to come on if you felt that this was any way, shape, or form something negative. So thank you so much for being so gracious with your time. We actually went way over than I thought we were going.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
No.
It was great. We had such a fun time. Seriously, that was great.
Another half hour at least,
Yeah.
but I know that I want to be
So
mindful
the thing
of
about the
everybody's
prison in
time.
Elmira.
Yeah. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that 3-hour discussion about it. I'm going to get the research team on that, make sure we'll get the square footage and how much would it cost if we wanted to add a fence and what kind of material we would need.
Yeah.
So please join us next
Well,
time.
that's Tommy
for that
Hilfiger.
chat. Okay, Tommy Hilfiger, except we're not going to offer him as much money as the next guy. Except
I'm
we're
so
going to flip
sorry.
that story. No, I love it. I love it. We learned so much today. And I want to say thank you to both of you guys again. I think it's just really great that we're allowing, for myself, I'm going to talk selfishly, I'm getting an opportunity to really meet people who are in their element, or at least walking the line where they're showcasing that. And when you see somebody really thriving in their element, it's just so overwhelmingly incredible that I personally feed off of that when I watch people do well at what they do. So thank you again for allowing us to talk to you guys a little longer than maybe you guys needed, because I know you have to work and you have to work and I have to work, and I know Cody, you got an early morning appointment that you got to take care of it. So again,
I'm late for St. Louis in the morning at 5 o'clock.
And
Oh my
you
goodness.
guys are
They
incredible.
canceled my appointment this morning. They didn't tell me.
I'm off tomorrow. But thank you so much,
Hey,
seriously.
no,
And if you ever want to do this again, we're
It was a
down.
blast.
Thank
We
And
loved
Cody,
it.
this is his first time.
And Cody, welcome aboard.
Cody,
Well, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's really been incredible. I
Appreciate
think
it.
it was a great
Hey, it's a great way.
addition.
It's a great way for me to come on. This was perfect. Perfect two people to speak with for the first time. So to start this thing or whatever. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
And,
it.
so again, this Saturday, Brianna's featuring at the Hamburg Open Mic, sponsored and run by Billy. It's Mac, who also has that crouton incredible feature that will be happening there too. It's in a cool environment. And then 6/12, June 12th, it's Monday. You're going to be there. Unless you're trash people, don't come. Unless you're cool trash people. But if you're an asshole, don't come.
I just got to shut the fuck up.
But again, this is a place where we're going to really see some really awesome stuff, because these people curated it. And it's a return. It's a return of the popcorn poetry. So we'll see you guys there.
I made
Thank
so
you
much
guys.
popcorn.
I know.
Yeah.
I would actually digest this tonight. So
Hey,
again,
I looked for movie snacks, but all I could find was a half-eaten box of cereal. So I don't.
Bro,
know
I
that
wish
many-
they had Frankenberry at the movies.
Well, I don't even have Frankenberry. It's like some old man cereal, like a
Special
Raisin
K.
Bran or something. Yeah.
That's hype.
Grape Nuts is, I think, is the old.
Cheerios.
person.
Yeah.
It's my favorite cereal. He will forever make fun of me for it.
It's
The original or Honey Nut?
I can't have Honey Nut. It has almond in it, and I'm allergic
Stop
to
telling
nuts.
people how to kill you.
So original.
You wouldn't expect there to be like almond in the Honey Nut Cheerios, but there is.
Well,
Thank
now
you
we know
so
that's
much,
another-
seriously.
no, hold on, that's another factoid for everybody out there. There's almond in the Honey Nut Cheerios, so if you have an almond allergy, stay away from it. Thank you, guys. And that's how we're going to end it. And then 6/12, please be there. And you guys, good luck to everything. And we look forward to all these amazing things that you guys are doing. And you write every day or whatever. All right, bye, Cody. Thank you, guys.
Hey, you guys take care. It's fun. Hey, see ya.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
You're
I don't know
welcome.
how to
Bye.
end this.